World Racing BMW. It's car number 80. His teammate James Clay will start one position further up the grid in 10th position. Alongside him is Alan Brynjolfsson. That's the Archangel Motorsports Porsche 718 came in GT4 in car number 7. Row 4, despite an off in qualifying, is car number 56. That's Jeff Mosing in the Murillo Racing Mercedes. Alongside him, the Multimatic Motorsports Ford Mustang GT4. The veteran driver, car number 22, is Scott Maxwell. Row 3, a PF Racing Ford Mustang making his return to the series in car number 40 is Chad McCumbee. Alongside him, his best ever qualifying position in car number 35, the Riley Motorsports Mercedes. That's Florida native Jim Cox. Great effort for him in qualifying. On the second row of the grid, Russell Ward, also doing a good job in the Winward Racing Mercedes. Alongside him on the inside of the second row is Robbie Foley in car number 95, the Turner Motorsport BMW. Onto the front row of the grid, the Core Motorsports Aston Martin Vantage GT4, that is Nate Stacey, his best ever qualifying effort. And on the pole position, the fourth time in his career, defending series champion, the car barn with Peregrine Racing Audi R8 GT4 in car number 39 from California is Tyler Mcquarrie.
Thank you, Jeremy Shaw. Take a breath and take a note. Spencer Brockman, born the 28th of January 2000. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Quick notes from Shea Adam on the GS field. What have you got from our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report?
We had some issues in qualifying, the first of which was the number 3 Motorsports in Action McLaren. It stopped at the pit exit of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship pits, different pits for the different series this weekend. Intermittently cutting out for Sheena Monk. She did manage to get the car refired after some control-alt-deleting. And then once they got the car back after qualifying, they put new coils and new spark plugs in it. They feel pretty good about their McLaren for the race. For the 56 Murillo Racing Mercedes, there was a slight off in qualifying, but it didn't negatively affect the car. Jeff Mosing said he gained a bunch over practice, so he's happy with the result. But like a lot of people in the paddock, he is doing a rain dance. There were transponder issues, as Jeremy mentioned, for the 57. That's the Winward Racing Mercedes. So no laps registered in qualifying. That means that they can throw some sticker tires on and Bryce can drive back up from the front. The number 7, which is the Archangel Racing crew, they are the main Porsche in the field as far as qualifying goes. They want rain. Their goal is to make the fewest mistakes and keep the car cool. The track is very greasy and everyone's fighting for grip, but it is Mike Johnson's birthday and they would love nothing more than to give their team manager a win.
Thank you, Cher. Our VP, a paddock and pit reporter, VP Racing Fuels, joining us here on IMSA Radio for the first time this weekend. We're in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, ready to get things underway as we bring together the endurance racing community in sound and vision. If you are so equipped, it's time to switch to IMSA TV or to RadioLeBond.com and our feed. Hello everybody and welcome to Sebring International Raceway, the original home of the American Grand Prix, the US Grand Prix and the birthplace of international endurance racing. We're right in the middle of Florida, just round about 90 minutes south of Orlando, probably a couple of hours north of Miami, depending of course on how quickly you drive. And this place, well, if only the tarmac and more importantly the concrete could speak. If it could, it would be able to tell brilliant stories. The home for very many years of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, pressed into service in an unfamiliar time of year here this July for a 1 hour 20-minute race here for the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and then for the Cadillac Grand Prix for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. That comes up tomorrow. The cars are already rolling. Jeremy Shaw is with me in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock correspondent. Jeremy, nice to see at the front of the GS field we've got a nice bit of variety in terms of the manufacturers.
Yeah, we do, don't we? That's a hallmark of this Michelin Pilot Challenge Series, with an Audi, an Aston Martin, a BMW and a Mercedes, 4 different manufacturers in the top 4. There's also a Ford, a Porsche and a BMW in the top 10 as well. So I think it's anybody's race. A great lap that was by Tyler Mcquarrie in qualifying. Just missed out on the qualifying lap record by only a little more than a tenth of a second, given how hot it was this morning. That's a pretty good effort from Tyler Mcquarrie. Also the fact this is the first time that team has run the new Evo Aero kit on this Audi. They didn't run it at Daytona, so a fair bit of learning to do for that team, and ominous perhaps for the opposition, because this is a defending series champion team. They don't think they've yet got the best out of that car, so they think there's more to come. We shall see.
At the front of the TCR field, it's Veloster, and Veloster, Shea Adam. 5 of them in the field, and they've locked out the first 2.5 rows.
They're gonna have to play nicely, though, as it's 3 team cars, then an interloper, then another team car. As they go into that first turn, when they get the green flag, they can block out the rest of the TCR field and work together to try and run away, which I know was the plan for those crew members and teams. But things tend to get a little bit interesting, particularly when you consider that the drivers starting in 2nd and 3rd, drivers of the 21 and 98, Perry Gottsacker and Mason Filippi, drove together last year. This is the first time they're starting right next to each other, and you know what they say, old teammates, they can play well together, but can also end up in a lot of carbon.
Watch out for Robbie Foley in the yellow and blue Turner Motorsport BMW M4 GT4. He's on the inside of the 2nd row. He's very good at starting. A little bit of housekeeping here with 2 hours on the clock for the Advent Health at 1:20. The pit lane, start-finish line in its usual place, right in front of the main pits. The pit lane for this race is going to be utilising the WEC pit, which enters just before the Jean de Bihan curves and is parallel to the back straight. So you will see some odd things going on in terms of the timing if you're following along online. So don't get too confused about that when you see people disappearing into the back straight pits. It is only the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship that will be using what I would call the traditional pits for IMSA competition. The good news is that we have got those 2 pit lanes to be able to utilise. Hour and a half on the clock, and Tyler Mcquarrie, exemplary run in the qualifying. Jeremy Shaw got his lap done. There was a little bit of to and fro in the early laps. Most people only run, I think, 4, 5, 6 laps on the Michelin tyres in qualifying.
Yeah, that's right. And I think he only did 3 laps in the Audi, did the pole sitter. So he's certainly in good shape there. But I think this is a wide open race. And looking from the onboard here, we can see there's quite a little bit of cloud activity around. And if there's rain, perhaps will show its hand later in the afternoon. That's going to make things very, very interesting, potentially turn things on their head.
All live, uninterrupted and free here on the Radio Show Limited network of channels with sound and vision together. Just coming to where the cars could peel off into the pits. The leaders have just gone through that kind of area, and it's quite a tight turn into there.
Well, I wonder whether everybody's going to make that mistake, John.
Well,
we saw somebody this morning, didn't we? He had a qualifying pull into the old pit lane.
Gavin Ernstone, yeah.
And you told you pit. Well, you've got to make sure you make that right-hand touch, kind of sharp right turn there through the Jean de Bihan. It could be the old habits die hard, don't they? As we well know.
Absolutely. And teaching you old dogs new tricks is a bit of problem as well. The Cadillac safety vehicle is off. The Audi is on driver's left under the Michelin bridge towards what we expect to see as the green flag, and the Advent Health 120 is underway for the 2nd round of the Michelin Pilot Challenge for 2019. and 20. Tyler Mcquarrie gets a decent shot to the first corner down the inside. Here comes Robbie Foley. I told you about the BMW. Foley steams up into second position ahead of Nate Stacey in the Core Racing Aston Martin, but it's not over yet, and those two cars are still side by side. Behind them, looks like a getting together between two of the AMGs, and a spin for the number 4. That, I'm afraid, is Russell Ward, who went around, and he was right along the inside of the Riley Motorsport AMG GT4 as well, and both of those cars have slowed. Did Russell get moving again? But certainly the Cox car and the Riley machine took a little more time to get underway. Meantime, at the hotel hairpin at the far side of the circuit, Foley is in the second place. Bit unnecessary early on, I think, from Russell Ward. Caught the inside curb at 3, Jeremy.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. Both those two, I mean, defending the inside, there was number 35 car of Jim Cox, and still Russell Ward decided he was going to try it down the inside. I mean, there just wasn't room there. That was really unfortunate, unnecessary, and a great shame, because both of them qualified really, really well. Best ever for Jim Cox. He'll hand over that car, of course, to young Dylan Murray. He's still young, Dylan Murray, because he's still only 18 years of age, which is fairly amazing. But that was a really unfortunate beginning to this race for those two.
Shea Adam with a note on the second position car. Under pressure at the moment for Robbie Foley. He's got to keep that car behind him, but he's got more to think about than just his driving here, Shea.
Robbie is going to have a very busy day today, because once he jumps out of this number 95 Turner Motorsport BMW that he shares with his regular full-season GTD co-driver Bill Oberlin, he has to drive the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW that he's sharing with Vin Barletta. So not only is Robbie concentrating on getting this far as far forward as he can during his time, which ideally would be into the first place, he then has to think about dragging the other car up whenever he gets into that one. It's a busy day for Robbie.
Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report there. So across the line at the completion of the first green flag lap since January for these drivers in the Michelin Pilot Sports Car Challenge, and it is the Carbon with Peregrine leading the Audi. That is the number 39 car by nearly 2 seconds. A great getaway by Tyler Mcquarrie from Foley and Stacey, who were battling together, and then the bright pink number 60 Aston the bright pink PF Racing Chad McCumbee Ford Mustang is right in there in 4th position ahead of Scott Maxwell and Jeff Mosing for the distinctive Murillo Racing. Both Murillo Racing cars had little offs earlier on. One dropped the left side, Michelin on the dirt, spun to the right. One dropped the right side, Michelin off and spun to the left. But no harm, no foul. And Jeff Mosing in 6th position at the moment. Harry Gottsack is in among the GS cars in 13th position and leads the TCR category for the number 21 Brian Herter Autosport under Veloster in TCR. But all eyes at the moment, Jeremy, on that multicoloured Aston in 3rd place, trying to put some pressure on Robbie Foley.
That's right, very closely matched. These two seem to be in the early stages, and Robbie's going to be busy today, so he's going to make sure he doesn't take too much out of himself during this early stint in the car, because he's going to be climbing behind the other motorsport BMW later on, taking over from Vin Barletta. But yeah, what a weekend it is going to be for Robbie Foley. He's going to be a busy boy, but doing an excellent job in the early stages.
Down at the lead of TCR, now in behind the TCR leader, now in behind some of the GS cars, and that's going to be difficult to pull through. 21 Harry Gottsacker is doing a cracking job, and sitting behind Sheena Monk, who managed to get 5 laps in qualifying, Jeremy, after an inauspicious start for that car. A couple of control-alt-deletes needed, one yesterday and then one again in qualifying, but she did qualify and qualified well.
She did. She qualified in the 13th position. That was a good run, certainly, by her, because she doesn't have a lot of experience. She only started racing a couple of years ago, so she's done well there. And but what a great start! You're right there by that number 21 car of Harry Gottsacker, because he is up in the 13th position overall, and he's got a whole gaggle of GS cars in between himself and the second place battle, which is led currently in TCR by the pole-sitting car, I think, of Brian Norman.
Quite an extraordinary start by that Hyundai. sitting in second place in TCR at the moment is Ryan Norman, and then Ben Waddell in the 47 Motorsports car. That's the sort of grey and terracotta coloured Hyundai Veloster. Then we've got the 29 car, that is another one of the Velosters, and then Mason Filippi in the 5th of the Velosters. So they still held their positions, but as Jeremy said, we've got 5 cars between, I think that's 6 now, because Gotzak has just gone past Sheena Monk into 12th position. 6 cars between the TCR leader and TCR second. Absolutely extraordinary stuff at the sharp end of the TCR field, but we've said this before, as Tyler Mcquarrie continues to lead, although he's been pegged back by a couple of tenths, now down to just about a second and a half. We've said this before though, Jeremy, those TCRs, particularly on the twistier parts of any circuit, they produce a lot of downforce, they're quite nimble, and actually they've got quite a lot of power as well.
Well, they do. I mean, you're right there. They do have good speed, and particularly if it does rain later on, they're probably going to be the quickest cars on the track.
Yes.
But the top speed of these cars, I think it's about 125 miles an hour at the end of the front straight, and also the end of the back straight into Sunset Bend. So yeah, they are fast, and they get off the corners really well. I mean, they put their power down incredibly well. So they are fast. But you do have to take care of the tyres on those cars.
Particularly the front tyres as well. The back tyres, as we've said before.
Forget the back ones.
Yeah, well, as our old mate Martin Haven, who has done World Touring cars for more years than they've been World Touring cars, always said the rear wheels on a front-wheel drive touring car just to stop the exhaust silencer scraping on the ground. Core Motorsports, Nate Stacey does the fastest lap of the race last time around as he closed second and third, now just over a second away from the leader. They are closing in, so I wonder if they've just stopped fighting each other for a moment. Nate Stacey and Chad McCumbee, that is. Chad McCumbee and Scott Maxwell in the two Fords, also trying to breach the gap. I'm not sure they're getting very much closer. Gotzak still in 12th position overall, putting in some cracking times. 2:15.9 for the fastest lap of the race for TCR. A 2:12.5 for Nate Stacey last time with that Aston Martin Vantage. I'm very impressed with Gotzak's pace. Just got to wonder, Jeremy, has he gone fast early, and what's he going to be doing to those front Michelin tyres?
Yeah, good point, certainly. But that 1 minute 12.986, the lap record was set last year by Tom O'Gorman in TCR, 2 minutes 15.4. So within a half a second of that right out of the box, despite the fact it's pretty warm out there this afternoon. So, as you say, excellent job by Harry Gotzak, and he's got everybody else covered at the moment. He's got a lead of about 6 seconds over Ryan Norman, plus he's got a handful, actually half a dozen GS cars in between himself and the second place car in TCR, that is the pole sitter Ryan Norman. And Ben Waddell hanging right there in third position for 47 Motorsports in the Hyundai car number 47.
We're hearing from the team, Shea Adam, that things are going well for the Gotzak car.
The Hyundai camp is very happy. Just chatting with Mark Wilkins, who's waiting for his turn in the leading TCR car. He said Harry is on point, did an awesome job in qualifying this morning, just barely missed out on that pole position, but he made up for it on the start of the race. They've been really focused on trying to get a win, to try and put everything together, and right now they're doing exactly what they need to.
Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel Pit and paddock reporter, bringing us the word from what's going on the other side of the track. To normal, of course. Robbie Foley nips in with the best sector 2 of the race. Just doesn't quite make the best lap time at the moment. It's in the air, 31 degrees Celsius, so getting on towards 90 Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius on the track. It was warmer than that earlier on, but there has been a little bit of cloud cover, 72% humidity at Sebring International Raceway. We're on lap number 4 with an hour and 15 minutes of the 2 hours of the Advent Health 120, opening up the weekend's action here at the Cadillac Grand Prix of Sebring. It's Shea Adam, Jeremy Shaw and me, John Hindhoff. Good to have your company, whether you're watching on the numerous live and free feeds that are available, or maybe you've cashed in your Michelin free subscription to the Track Pass. If you haven't, you might find that there's still 1 or 2 left. I know it was a limited number. Or listening on RS2 IMSA Radio, where there's never any blocks or breaks, and we bring it all to you right over the weekend. We'll have qualifying for IMSA WeatherTech and then the full race as well. In fact, we'll have all the WeatherTech sessions. Those 2 qualifying in the race will be in sound and vision. Battle for second, Jeremy. Seems to me at the moment as though Nate Stacey just can't get himself in a position to make a meaningful lunge as, oh dear, off and a problem for the Brian Herner Autosport. That's the newest of the cars, the white and green 29 machine, and that has come to a dead stop. That looks down at the hotel hairpin for me for the 29 car of Spencer Brockman. Yeah, it is, and there was contact there with it is the Urban Grid 71, the Camaro, that was driven by Frank Depew, and 2 cars from 2 different classes. There's damage to the left front of the Camaro. That may bring out our Chevrolet safety SUV as it is. Leaders still pushing at the moment. My point, Jeremy, I was going to make about the battle for second is with Nate Stacey not challenging Robbie Foley, it has seemed to allow Robbie to focus forward, and they're now within a second of the leader. Full course yellow.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, isn't it? And shame for Frank Depew too, because that car was fantastically fast yesterday. I think Robin Liddell set the fastest time of the day in practice, so high expectations for the race, but it's not to be. That's going to be the car's still not underway again either, is it? Doesn't look like he's got any engine noise coming out of that car, so no propulsion whatsoever. That's most unfortunate for that team, and also for Spencer Brockman making his debut, one of 3 debutants in the TCR class, and all youngsters as well. You talked about the fact that Spencer's only 20 years of age. Well, his teammate is younger than that, in actual fact. 19 is Parker Chase, so a combined age of 39, those 2. There's a whole bunch of cars in this race with single drivers a lot older than that.
That's horrid. That's it. We're not talking about them anymore. Safety car is out, and we've scrambled one of the Porsche intervention vehicles, our AMR safety vehicles, and that means that little lead that Tyler Mcquarrie, of course, had gained will disappear with an hour and 47 minutes to go. It's too early really for a meaningful pit stop here, Jeremy, because there are driver minimum times in this race.
Yeah, there are. So
red flag. Red flag. So this is something more serious than we first thought, and we won't speculate on that. We'll wait for news. Shea, the issue was looked at, that contact between Frank Depew and the Spencer Brockman TCR was looked at by race control, though.
Correct, and no further action was declared on that incident. And since we've got an opportunity, if you just give me a moment, I will try and dial up Dylan Murray for us.
Okay, that's great. We'll have a quick word with Dylan if we can. Red flag, and the leader did come into the pit lane, which is exactly the right thing to do. I think some slight confusion because of where the pits is, but Tyler Mcquarrie pitted immediately. Chad McCumbee, Scott Maxwell and Jeff Mosing went around because they hadn't, I presume, their defence, Your Honour, to that would be, we didn't see the red flag over the start-finish line, but I go with Tyler Mcquarrie. You see the red flag, you come straight back into pit lane at a reduced speed, and I'm sure he won't get any sanction for that. Shea, Adam, go ahead.
Well, we can hear track noise in the background. So Dylan Murray, thank you so much for answering the phone call for us under a red flag. You're one of the points leaders right now coming into this race, and it wasn't the best start that we were hoping for the Riley Technology Mercedes, but it is a long opportunity to try and claw your way back up. So how do you and Bill Riley keep Jim Cox motivated to keep going for the rest of his stint?
Yeah, like you said, it wasn't the start that we were hoping for. We got a really good qualifying run. And now, we're just starting over. So you know, we're going to have to reset our mindset and say, okay, well, now we're in 20th place or wherever we are, and just got to do the best that we can and make up the spots that we can. Got to deal with what we got. We can't go back and reverse it. So we're going to just keep our heads in the game and look forward.
In terms of a situation where you get 6 months off of racing, how much do you have to sort of quash down those feelings when you just get that kid on Christmas morning, get to drive a race car again?
Yeah, no, it was, I'll tell you, the first 2 months of this whole coronavirus quarantine was really, really tough because, you know, every morning it's like I wake up and it's like, well, when's the next time I'm going to be at a racetrack? And, you know, you start to get used to it a little bit. But then I went back to a racetrack probably about a month ago for the first time. And then it was like, okay, now I remember what life was really all about. So it really gave me a taste and made me remember how much I have a passion for the sport.
Everyone's been talking about the heat of Florida, but you're a Georgia boy. How bad really is it down there?
Yes, I am a Georgia boy, but it is hot for anybody. I think anybody will be able to say that. Even the drivers from Brazil will be able to say that it is hot. But it's going to be a lot of drivers against themselves and their physical capabilities. So I think we'll see towards the end of the race some of the fit drivers start to separate from the others. So I think it'll be. I personally think that'll be a good advantage for me. I've been doing a lot of training, so I'm looking forward to putting my fitness to the test.
Well, thanks for the chat, Dylan, and good luck for the rest of the race. Are you doing a rain dance, or are you hoping it stays dry?
I don't know. I think right now with the situation we're in, if it rains, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. So I think that'll be our best chance to move forward. Originally, I was hoping for it to be dry, but now with where we're at, I think if it rains, I think we'll have a good shot to work up through the field pretty quick.
All right, then I'll start doing a rain dance for you. Dylan Murray, driver of the number 35 Riley Technology Mercedes. Thanks.
Shea Adam with our first ever VP Racing Fuel pit lane report. Thank you, Shea. Red flag is for lightning in the area. So this is a weather hold. You will know if you've followed us here on IMSA Radio for any amount of time. Once there is lightning within a prescribed area, then all of the marshals and turn corner workers are brought in, and that is the case. So the red flag has come out. Before that, just to reiterate, the coming together between the cars 4 and 35, that was the two AMGs on the first lap, reviewed, no action. Still looking to see, haven't seen anything about the 29 and 71 yet, but 4 and 35 definitely no action. And also a jump start, so a drive through once we get back going for the number 14. That's the AMG of Bluff City Racing, and that was for a jump start. So what I can't tell you at the moment, because I've got the wrong screen in front of me, is whether that car already had done its drive through. No, it has not. So it was started by Anton Diaz Pereira. So when we get going again, there will still be a drive through. So just to reiterate, we are under red flag. The clock is still running. We're down to almost an hour and 41. And once again, the 2020 weather curse seems to have hit. But with lightning in the area, there's no choice. It's within the standing regulations for IMSA that we have to stop the race. An eventful lap and a half, it seems. Couple of laps, actually, by the time we got to that. We were on the end of lap 5, Jeremy Shaw. An eventful couple of laps. My question will be, what happens to the two cars then that were involved in the red flag? I suppose the TCR car, the Veloster, that one did resume, so that should be fine. I'm not even sure they lost a lap, to be honest.
No, good question, actually. Let's have a look on the scoring here. And that car is shown as completed five laps. Yeah, so he was able to get back out again. Frank Dupuy, I'm not sure that car is still working on that car out on the racetrack, I think, trying to get that back out again. So that has not yet completed its 5th lap.
Yeah, that is showing it stopped. It will have had outside assistance as well.
That's not a problem.
Yes, but if it gets flatbedded back to if it has to get flatbedded back to the pits, would it be allowed to rejoin, even a lap down? I think there'll be some kind of discussion going on now between Rebel Rock Racing. Just to reiterate, the stoppage is for lightning in the area. There's broken cloud and blue skies off to the north side of the racetrack, but overcast as well, and a cell coming in. So this stoppage is for lightning. It is not for the incident. There's nothing else more sinister, which is why I didn't want to speculate on that earlier on. We are still running that clock. If you're at Sebring and listening into us on the PA system, thank you for supporting us. I know that there's a small number of local spectators being allowed in, and we'll keep you up to date with what's going on at the moment. But as it stands, we are on hold with Robbie Foley leading, with Tyler Mcquarrie leading for Carbon in the Audi. The gaps, Jeremy, don't matter now, because when we restart, we will be behind the Cadillac safety truck.
Indeed so, and there seems to be very little to choose between those, particularly the top three. Nick were very, very closely matched. They've been kind of trading fastest laps in the early stages, so there was really nothing to choose between them. It was a very interesting battle. I think already was beginning to shape up there. Tyler Mcquarrie was certainly looking pretty comfortable in the lead, but Robbie Foley in the BMW and Nate Stacey in the Aston Martin were very, very closely matched and dicing hard over second place. Then the two Fords up into fourth and fifth positions. They've certainly slipped back a fair way from the top three. But, early stages in the race. And, how frustrating is it, John, that the track is dry, and yet we can't go racing because there's lightning within, I think it's 10 miles, isn't it, is the minimum. Well, that's purely down to safety, of course. I mean, understandable, but gosh, it's so annoying.
Yeah, and it will be frustrating the teams as well, but it isn't a choice. As I said, it is mandated within the regulations. Shay, can you just take everybody at the track and indeed listening and watching around the world, there's different levels that IMSA apply to weather and what has to happen within those different levels.
Correct. And most people who witnessed the Sebring race that we had, what was that, 2 years ago now, for the 12-hour, when it was torrential downpour and a little bit sketchier. Right now, if you're able to see a picture, you notice that there is no rain actually falling from the sky. So you would think, okay, well, why aren't they able to go? It's because when lightning is in the area, we then go on to different stages of lockdown. Stage 1 is when there's something nearby, but it's still okay to be outside. Stage 2 is when it gets a little bit more serious and you might want to seek shelter. Stage 3 is a complete lockdown. You move away from metal, you get off the pit stands, you get out of the pit lane, and you go seek shelter because the lightning is within a certain region. Right now, the storm is lingering. It's close to the track. Thankfully, Sebring International Raceway being part of an airport means that we get more accurate radar as far as that goes. And it's this one cell that almost looks like a perfect circle just moving through the area right now. Yellow for the most part with a little bit of green, but once that lightning moves away, once it's clear behind it, there is a low pressure system moving through, which should, in theory, drag the rest of the bad weather through with it. I say in theory because this is Florida in the summer. And for those of you who have never been to Florida, we only have 2 seasons. We have wet and we have dry. And right now we're in the wet season, which means it can rain whenever it feels like it.
The cell coming up from Lake Okeechobee and heading up towards Lake Placid. And if you want to get in touch with us, by the way, at IMSA Radio is where you get in touch with us when we're on RS2, bringing you all of the IMSA action. At IMSA Radio, and I've got the tweet app open right in front of me. As Jeremy says, undoubtedly frustrating, but you can see the weather in the distance and the rain about to blow in. You quite often, and we saw this last weekend at Monza, actually, for the Creventic 12-hour race down there, you often get lightning ahead of the oncoming weather. And my goodness, when the rain hit there, the wind picked up and the rain hit, and we literally couldn't see across from one side of the track to the other. There was hailstones, and within certainly half an hour, 35 minutes, it had gone from being a beautiful afternoon to having so much standing water on the track at Monza that you would have been better off with a jet ski pulling a boogie board than you were with a GT3 car. And in fact, actually, they sent out one of the safety cars to pick up the leader and bring the field in, and that's very unusual in that type of racing. They normally do everything with code 60 purple flags, and the safety car couldn't get back to the pits because part of the track underneath the old banking where it goes down into the dips before you come up the hill to the Ascari chicane, which is 8, 9 and 10, isn't it? But Ascari chicane, Jeremy knows exactly what I'm talking about. That was flooded to over knee height in the space of about 15 minutes, and the safety car couldn't get through it. Never mind the race cars. Let's hope we don't have that here. Shea Adam has some news on the Triple R, the Rebel Rock Racing Urban Grid Camaro that was involved in that ding at the Hotel Hairpin. Not the cause of this stoppage though, but it looks like that car may not be coming back.
Well, not coming back anytime soon. What looked like a relatively innocuous hit actually broke the steering on the Camaro, so that's why Frank Depew couldn't wheel it all the way back around, 9 more corners to get back to the pit lane at the entrance of turn 6. So they did have to send out the flatbed, and that's why they had to load the car on. But now they need to wait until the end of the red flag stoppage to even see if they can make an attempt to repair the Camaro.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's what's called parc fermé. You're not allowed to touch the cars. The bulk of the field is in the backstraight pit lane, which is where the 2 challenge class races are running out of this weekend. But you're not allowed to touch them. Race control will let the teams know if they are allowed to even put rain covers over the cars. A reminder, by the way, that we did get a jump start penalty for the number 14, Anton Diaz Pereira, who makes his home in Memphis, Tennessee now. That's the number 14 Mercedes. He has not served that. So in the pit lane or in the paddock, it's parc fermé, you can't touch the car. So the Rebel Rock guys, they'll be able to look at the car, but they won't, and assess the damage, but they won't be able to do anything, Jeremy, to put that car right until after the red flag is over.
No, that's right, and they'll even more frustrating for them.
Yeah.
The weather does not look good, does it?
No.
Yes, so Dr. Ferreira, a vascular surgeon he is from Germantown, Tennessee. Yes, Bluff City Racing, right on the river there. That is where the team's based, hence Bluff City. And it was an interesting first part of the race. So I think there's several cars that are clearly out of position from where they think they should be, particularly number 57 and the number 4 that was involved in that first lap incident. I'm a little surprised there was no penalty called there, to be perfectly honest, because when the replay that we saw, it looked like number 35 car had the door shut pretty firmly, I thought, and still the number 35 tried to tuck its way down. Excuse me, the number 4 car tried to tuck its way down the inside.
Yeah.
But that's
that one has been reviewed, Jeremy, and I am looking at that and reviewed no action. So that took only 9 minutes. What I haven't seen is any kind of incident report for the 29 Hyundai and the 71 Camaro. Just noted that those 2 spun. Clearly there was some contact. We could see damage on the left front of the Urban Grid Camaro, and Frank deciding, I think rather sensibly, not to try and drive that car back and either get in anybody else's way, because we were still green and then went to a full course yellow. It was called as a short yellow, so they must have thought they'd been able to get that car out the way fairly quickly and not have to open the pits. That was the thing, because it was within 15 minutes of the start of the race, I guess.
Yeah, that's the point there. It was within 15 minutes of the start of the race, hence it's a short. Yeah, anything between in the first 15 minutes or the final 30 minutes is determined as short yellow, in which case the pits will not be opened, and all the procedures for wave pass and drive-throughs and all that stuff will not take place.
at IMSA Radio, please, if you want to get in touch with us, which Chris Humphreys has done, one of the Legion of Orange in the UK. Motorsport getting back into the groove in the UK as well. Thank you, Chris, and all of your colleagues in the UK. And we thank whatever you call yourself, whether you're a turn marshal, a corner worker, or a marshal, and whether you wear white or yellow, or in fact whether you're doing some other job in the paddock and scrutineering or whatever. All of our volunteers in motor racing, we thank you all very much indeed. We simply can't do the job without you. Chris says, is there any regulations on the clock stopping? I notice it hasn't stopped at the moment. No, it still ticks down. What we might get, we have seen in the past, this doesn't necessarily have to happen, but what we have seen in the past is you might see a race being then back timed, but for the moment the clock is running and we're down under 90 minutes. That might resume with 90 minutes on the clock. We don't know. It is. Well, it's a fairly busy day today, and we've got WeatherTech Free Practice 1 to come in. We've got prototype qualifying and WeatherTech Free Practice 1 to fit in today, because we've got another very busy day tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right, John, and that's really the concern. I'm sure they'll want the practice for the WeatherTech series to run off on schedule at 6 o'clock. The good news is there is a little bit of a gap slated between obviously this race and qualifying for the IMSA Prototype Challenge. That was supposed to be a half an hour gap, but after the qualifying, which is only a 15-minute session to set the grid for tomorrow's Prototype Challenge race, there was 45 minutes set aside. So we've got to, maybe we can sneak another half an hour or so in, but this is going to be a fairly lengthy stoppage, and that sky, as we look back down the Ullman Straight back towards the Jean de Bien curves, that's where the weather is coming from the east here, unusually, of course.
Very unusually.
Generally coming from the west, but these thunderstorms moving from east to west, and so it's yet to get here, let alone get past us.
Yeah, and part of that, of course, Jeremy, is that we're at Sebring here for the Advent Health 120 in a different time of the year. In March, there are different weather systems that blow around this area of central Florida. Got to say that the sky looks particularly threatening at the moment. It could not look any more threatening if it walked up to you with its sleeves rolled up and both hands in balled up fists at the moment. It does look a bit like some kind of sci-fi movie sky at the moment. Shay Adam, will this affect minimum drive times? Will they be adjusted?
I have asked the question to race control, but we have had situations like this in the past where that has been the case. The minimum drive time for this race before we got this delay was going to be 40 minutes per driver. So that means 40 minutes needing to be filled. Since the clock has continued to run, but the cars are in the pit lane, whenever a car enters the pit lane, the drive time stops. So this wouldn't actually be counting towards anyone who is still behind the wheel of their car's drive time. I've been texting a few people who technically have their names on the timings and scoring right now, just to see if maybe they have gotten out of their car or if someone has brought them their phone. So far, I've gotten no response from any of those drivers. So as far as I believe, everyone is sitting patiently behind the wheel of their car going, oh, come on, can we go play? Please, 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 please.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a wee while yet. To be honest. Hello to Team Walkenhorst BMW fan who's tuned in at IMSA Radio. If you want to get in touch with us, and we'll try and keep you up to date with the news. We've still got circuit vehicles moving around at turn 7 on the return roads, which are off the track. That's quite unusual, so we can't quite be at a level 3 yet, Shay, if people are still moving around the track.
Correct. They would be able to tell people that they need to stay in a safe area, but ultimately you can't decide what the fans do. You can only advise to them. But this weather does look like the sort of level 3 stuff that we've seen in the past. So I've just also sent off a text message to our favorite pit lane official, Mr. Johnny Knotts, to ask him if he's back safe and hiding, and he's not answering his phone either. So I'm pretty sure that means that he is hiding.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I did say circuit vehicle, not circus vehicles, Jeremy. We're not expecting people with red noses to jump out as the doors fall off.
No, indeed. But I tell you, isn't it bizarre? I mean, look at the picture that we have here. It's remarkable. What's particularly remarkable is how dark the sky is, but how light the track looks, because the sun is kind of behind this camera from Sunset Bend. Such as there is. Well, the sun is out at this part of the racetrack. It's just bizarre, isn't it? It's just really, really weird.
As I say, we've had this weather a couple of times this year, and we had a massive storm blow across into the southern part of Europe last weekend, which blew down right across through Austria and then down into northern Italy. And we literally had bright sunshine 1 minute, and 35 minutes later, we couldn't see anything. In fact, one of the cameras never came back. The camera at the Rettifilio, the first chicane, never came back online because it was pointing into the teeth of the gale and the weather, and we never got that one back working. Again, overcast skies, threatening skies, rain in the distance. We're under a weather hold at Sebring. Hello, everybody, and we'll try and keep you up to date with what's going on, with 5 laps in the books only, and still just over an hour and 23 minutes on a running clock for the Advent Health 120, round 2 of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge for 2020. In the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, it's John Hindhaugh, Jeremy Shaw, and our VP Race Fuels Pit and Paddock reporter is Shea Adam, desperately trying to find out from the teams what they're doing at the moment. Of course, Jeremy, what the cars are doing at the moment is nothing at all. They'll be sitting in the pit lane and nobody's allowed to touch them. That's Parc Fermé for you.
Yeah, it is. That's right. So a lot of clicking of heels, and particularly frustrating when the track is dry and the sun's actually out. So not able to go racing. But rules is rules, and they're there for a very, very good reason. But it is a frustrating time for the teams, and particularly, of course, for the number 71 Rebel Rock Racing team, because if the car is back by now, I'm sure they'd love to be stuck in there and trying to get it back out in a race again. But that's not going to happen for quite a while, as you talked about a little while ago. It's under Parc Fermé conditions, so no work is allowed on that car until the cars are rolling again.
Yeah, and race control have just issued 2 take shelter warnings. Drivers now out of the cars on the pit lane, so that is some kind of indication there, a clear indication of how they feel the weather is developing. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us. But drivers being told to get out of the cars now and take shelter. If you are at Sebring and hearing our voices now on the PA system, we've just had the take shelter warning from race control, and I know that one or two of you are there at the track at the moment, and there's some RVs, so please take shelter. Worse weather coming in at the moment. It is IMSA Radio, RS2 for audio, as part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. If you are going back to your car, you can log on to IMSA.com, download the app. If you haven't got that already, there's a direct link to IMSA Radio on there. Otherwise, go to radio-show.co.uk and press the listen live button, and of the 3 channels, you want RS2 to be able to listen in to us, and we'll keep you updated with what's going on, as well as with our colleagues. And thanks very much to our colleagues, as ever, at Sebring, who have fired up the audio so that we can speak to you all at the track and in the paddock on the pit lane. Let's go to Shea Adam, who has another VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report.
Let's see if we can have a quick conversation with Chad McCumbee, who started that number 40 PF Racing. That's the bright pink Ford Mustang. A great start for Chad, all the way up to P4 before that red flag came out. Chad, first off, how good does it feel to be back in this series?
Oh, it's great. I can't thank everyone at PF Racing and Ford Performance enough for putting this deal together. I really look forward to run as many races as I can this year. And with everyone's schedules all jumbled up and the challenges we're facing, I'm not sure how many events that'll be, but
every time I get the opportunity, I certainly hope I can get back in this 40 car.
And it's nice to see you back in a Ford once again, because that is the car that you ran so successfully a couple years ago. But you've got Scott Maxwell right behind you. When we go back to racing, all the gaps erased from the red flag. You and Scott have worked together in the past. How can you guys work together to bring both Fords to the front of the field?
Well, it's funny. We were just chatting when we got all the cars. I think if we could combine our two cars, we would be in a little better shape. We're strong in different parts of the track, but we just don't have anything for those front three right now. So we'll see what this weather, see how that changes everything. It's certainly going to throw some more obstacles in the way, and see what IMSA announces as far as drive time goes. So a little bit of confusion on the red flag when we were supposed to pit and when we weren't. So Scott and I could have a little bit of work cut out for us when we go back green, but we'll try to make a good show of it.
Chad, it's John Hindhoff in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Hope you can hear me here. It's normally a very good day if you out-qualify Scott Maxwell in the same car. So were you slightly surprised to see another couple of vehicles ahead of you?
Well, I think it just shows, kind of where the series is at. I mean, back when I ran in 2018, we were certainly very strong, and the Ford Mustang GT4 by Multimatic certainly still is very strong. But there's some other cars that have really made leaps and bounds since I was here last. So just looking forward to kind of getting back in the groove and knocking the rust off and figuring out exactly what we need to make this car better week in, week out. I hate I can't join them for every single event, but really looking forward to turning some heads at some point this year.
And you mentioned the red flag. You guys went around onto the start-finish straight, the main start-finish straight, when the red flag came in, when Tyler Mcquarrie and the rest of the field dived straight into the pits at turn 16. Do you think you'll get put back in line for that, or do you think you'll have to start at the back of the GS field?
Well, I certainly hope so. The first communication was that it was a short yellow and pits were closed. So usually once that's announced, we can have a little bit more flexibility to talking about what adjustments we need on the car, and we were having that adjustment or that conversation about all the time that was happening. And then I think the call came, right around that turn 14, 15 area, and with a new pit lane, I saw those guys dive off, and I radioed in to ask, and as I was asking, I think that's when the guys got the call. So I certainly hope that they would give us a little leadway on that. It happened to Scott and myself, and looked like Nathan Nosing there behind us. So we'll hope for the best in that scenario, and see what transpires here, and we'll get back going.
Chad, when you and Stephen McAleer won the championship together, you did sort of what you called a sneaky ninja move, having both of your helmets painted exactly the same. Would you ever consider going bright pink and painting your helmet like James Pesic, your co-driver?
I tell you what, we had some really cool looking suits that we were going to have this week that unfortunately didn't quite show up. So we'll debut those soon enough, and I think they'll be pretty bright and impressive.
Thanks, Chad. Look forward to seeing that. Good luck the rest of the race.
All right, thanks so much.
Chad McCumbee on our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report. Hopefully, I'm not sure. We'll wait to see what race control say, but they didn't follow the leader in to the pits there, Jeremy. And the worst thing is they might get put to the back of the GS field, because I presume we will split the field for the restart, won't we?
Yeah, we will. We indeed that is the case. We'll go back to the GS cars ahead of the TCR cars. So certainly that's a bit disappointing them. I just heard a note, by the way, thanks to Katie Brennan, who just texted me to say that the number 29 car, Spencer Brockman, has a broken right rear wheel. So that car will it did get back after that incident with Frank Dupuis. Did get back on track at the back of the field, and they'll have to wait now until the cars get rolling again before they can change that wheel.
Yeah, understood. The pits, of course, were closed under the yellow, so it wasn't like you could go in to the pits and have that fixed before the red flag came out. It looked as though it was still the right rear wheel was still holding air, so it might have just taken a chunk out of the rim and the Michelin Pilot tyre was still doing its job and keeping the rim off the ground. If you're just joining us, expecting to hear the sound of race cars from Sebring International Raceway, the Michelin Pilot Challenge has been red flagged after 5 laps. Completely dry track, bizarre set of circumstances with a completely dry track, but severe weather in the area has brought this to a halt, and take shelter order issued from race control. That's why we're not racing at the moment. The first 4 laps characterised for a somewhat robust move by the number 4 AMG GT4 Russell Ward, diving up the inside at turn 3 and making contact with the similar car that he was racing for. I think it was 4th or 5th position at the time, and both of those cars did recover and rejoin, although it did look like there was a little bit of damage on the front right of Russell's car. No further action. And then just before the red flag, although nothing to do with why the red flag's out, I will keep stressing that, right in front of the hotel there at Sebring International Raceway, there was a coming together between the Camaro number 71 of Frank Depew and the TCR, which was the Brian Herter Autosport number 34, and that car, both of those cars ended up off the circuit, and I can hear raindrops, I think. Yes, I can, on our effects mics. So yeah, that car ended up off the track as well, and was able, fortunately, to make its way back to the pits. But unfortunately, Frank Depew has broken left front steering, or at least his Camaro does, the Rebel Rock Racing Urban Grade car, and that has come back on a flatbed. Rain at the far side of the circuit at Tower Turn and also at Cunningham. So
that's
the weather,
actually good news, because at least the weather is now here.
Yes, good point.
And hopefully we'll roll on through.
Yeah, I mean, you were spot on, Jeremy. You said unusually the weather was coming from slightly to the south, but mainly from the east, and that's the exact part of the circuit you would expect that weather to hit. It looks like it might be going slightly north of the track, that little cell of rain, and so we might not be getting the worst of that at the moment from the radar that I saw a moment or two ago. Now down at Big Bend as well, so it is starting to come across the rest of the circuit. But as you said, Jeremy, possibly good news that we are getting a little bit of that weather. It's the lightning that is the problem, of course.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is the lightning, and we haven't really seen any evidence of that from our cameras, but it's in the vicinity, and therefore no go. And of course, as we've talked about earlier on, she's a Florida native, so she knows this time of year, this time of day, it's very prone to thunderstorm activity.
Yeah.
And I think I seem to remember a couple of weeks ago at Daytona, she said there had been thunderstorms every single day for the previous month, around about sort of 5-6 in the evening for Daytona. So it's just a way of life in this part of the world, and unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And hopefully it'll move on through, and hopefully also, if there are more thunderstorm activity in the area tomorrow, it'll be out of the way before we can go racing.
Yeah, pit lane has been evacuated, by the way. That's the latest from race control. Shea Adams been looking at the weather data for the last 3 decades on this date.
Well, you have to be thorough when you look back at weather history like that. So out of 30 years, it's rained at Sebring International Raceway 29 times on this date and 29 times on tomorrow's date, when we are also expecting rain to come through. The rain, you're right, John, it is moving through. The cell is starting to hit, and the worst part of it has moved almost more to the south of the track, so that is the good news. The bad news is that there are 2 much smaller but still yellow cells following right behind it now that were not on the radar an hour ago. So like I said, Florida pop-up storms in the middle of summer, it's sort of what you have to expect. But hopefully those will continue to be pushed south too. Not a great deal of rain has actually fallen on the track, and not a great deal of rain has fallen on this date. When it has rained, it's tended to be light. So that's something positive that at least we can look at. Unfortunately, as the history says, as it rains tomorrow, it can rain up to 1.5 inches on the date of July 18th. So you never know what you're going to get.
I'm sure our good friends at Michelin have plenty of Michelin wet tyres available. Just a quick note, by the way, the red flag came out at 44 minutes past the last hour, and that was a standard 30-minute hold for lightning in the area. That's a minimum at that point. We have now, therefore, been under red flag for 30, getting on for 40 minutes actually. So we'll be coming around to 38 minutes. And the clock has just stopped. The countdown clock has stopped at 1 hour and 10 minutes of the Advent 120. We started with 2 hours on the clock. We have had 5 laps, and the clock has now stopped, counting down at 1 hour and 10 minutes. So 70 minutes still on the clock, and we are under a race hold. Jeremy, let's go back to 6 months ago and the previous. I still find myself sort of saying, no, I've got that wrong. The opening event of the season, of course, for the Michelin Pilot Challenge is one of 2 4-hour races. The teams really love them. Allows a little more strategy. Although, in fairness, these 2-hour races are pretty good as well, because the fuel and the driver times don't exactly fit the races. What a cracking race we had to kick the season off again.
Did we? It's such a long time. Yeah, we did. Of course we did. Just kidding. You know, but it is such a long time ago. And it was Jim Cox, Dylan Murray, and Jerome Blekemolen who came away with the win. Unfortunately, Jim Cox and Dylan Murray, who will be doing the full season in number 35 Riley Motorsports Mercedes, having started so well in qualifying, with Jim putting the car in the top 5 on the grid, got himself bundled back to the back of the pack on that incident from the first lap. But you know, we've seen some fantastic racing in this series. It's been described, has it not, as the best kept secret over the last several years, although we've been doing our very best to make sure it hasn't been a secret anymore, because the racing has just been fantastic. I mean, even going back before the introduction of TCR a couple of years ago and GT4 a couple of years before that, you know, for a while there were only, there was fewer GS cars as half a dozen or so, and still, even then, the racing was great. But it doesn't matter what we seem to throw out at the rate. The competition is always strong in this championship, and that's why we are so looking forward to getting this race back underway again.
Yes, I do enjoy the longer races, but as I say, IMSA have been very clever down through the years, Jeremy, of having race distances that don't exactly fit 2 stints, and you've got to have a little bit of think, or at least there's a choice. You can go early, you can go late, you can, with the minimum driver times as well, and we'll get to what changes might have been made for that in a moment. But with all of those things coming together, the guys on the pit wall have got to work just as hard as the guys behind the wheel. And whilst I know it's only 2 hours, that's what makes it, for my money, a really good training ground for longer endurance races for both drivers and teams.
Yeah, very much so, John, because strategy is massively important. Do you change tyres? When do you make your pit stop? For many of the teams, they'll want to make their first pit stop after 40 minutes because in many of the teams, the second driver is a fair bit quicker than the first one, so you want to get the quick driver in for as long as possible. But there's so much more to it than that. And, we've seen some fantastic racing in the past. And right now, of course, with the race on hold, the clock is also on hold, but it won't be on hold forever. And so you can't do any planning at all right now, because you don't know how long we're going to have for the end of this race. Right now, it says we've got 1 hour and 10 minutes to go, but I'm sure there's going to become a time where they're going to have to start that clock ticking down again, and so everything will change once again. So all the strategy is still to be played out this afternoon, and we don't yet know when it will start to play out.
Let's go to Shea Adam.
Jeff Westfall on the line with us, defending Sebring race winner and defending GS champion. Jeff, you've got to be happy to get back to this track, but then it's a totally different place than when you left it.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic to be back, and I want to say thank you to everyone at IMSA and NASCAR for being able to put this all together and do it in a safe way for everybody. Obviously, we're excited to be back, and Sebring in July is a little different than what we normally come here in terms of the season. I think it's all pre-game for the Hurricanes, so hurricane season's about to start, and I think we're witnessing that right now. As we got quite a bit of water and lightning in the area, so that's red flags for safety of everyone on course, marshals and pit lane and whatnot.
Your teammate, who we frequently call McDrifty with a lot of affection, he did quite a good job in qualifying today. You weren't expecting a pole, were you?
He did it was amazing. I was so happy with the lap that he pulled off. I know he was smiling too. It was one of those laps you just feel good about. I mean, he really, really nailed it and maximized everything he could. I was expecting we'd be decent. We were making progress each session, making the car a little bit better each time as we're relearning it with the Evo package and what that means for the balance of the R8. But yeah, we're all pleased here. We're chipping away at it like we always do, trying to keep an eye on the long run. And with this race here, who knows? The long run might go wet to dry. It might stay wet. We really don't know. It's Florida in the summer.
Yeah, very aware of what those conditions can throw up at you. Now, we were joking earlier about having Steve Dinan on the box for you and what an asset he is. When it comes to conditions like these, though, it's even more important to have an engineer who's seen everything and been through everything. Can he help keep you guys out front when your car is probably not on a wet setup?
Yeah, I mean, having a great engineer is always an asset. He knows the dynamics of a vehicle like the back of his hand. He can kind of foresee where the car is going to go. But really, it's kind of a team unit. All of us communicate, and we all have our different input that we feel. And luckily, we have so much gelling that's occurred over the last 2.5 seasons that, between Steve, Tyler, and I, we generally kind of know what each other are thinking. We know when we talk about one characteristic the car has, given that we might have a wet race, we already start all thinking down that same path. So it's been very beneficial, and he's been a huge asset to the car bond with Peregrine Racing Team.
And that's why you guys won a championship, because you work so well together. Jeff, thank you so much. Good luck, and hopefully you get in the car soon.
Yeah, thanks. I hope so. We'll see.
That was Jeff Westfall joining us with the VP Race Fuels Pit Report.
Thank you, Shea. Still an hour and 10 minutes, so we have frozen the clock now, and we'll stay live. We'll stay on the air with much brighter pictures coming through. The key is going to be where the lightning is and what race control are saying. Their last communication with the teams and therefore with everyone else through the timing screens was to evacuate the pit lane. That was some 20 minutes ago. And there's sections of the track that are damp at least now. The track temperature has dropped down to 27 degrees Celsius. The air temperature around about the same. So that's interesting to see just how quickly those things change. 29 degrees on the track, 27 in the air. But Shea, Adam, you know this part of the world very, very well indeed, being a Fort Lauderdale resident. If we do get out there, first of all, the cars will clear the water, but there should still be enough heat in the air to dry that concrete up.
Yeah, if they leave a camera pointing on the concrete for long enough, you'd actually be able to see the color changing because in the Florida summers, the humidity never goes away, but the heat, it might get a little less, but it's still there, and it will get hot again very quickly. So if you do go onto rain tires, you're probably not going to stay on them for very long on that concrete.
Yeah.
And just a funny note, John, I was talking with a couple of the drivers, one in particular, Corey Lewis, who was sitting inside waiting for his opportunity to get to drive the Motorsports in Action McLaren, eating a bag of goldfish because he was expecting at this time to pretty much already be in the car, already be in the midst of exercise because you're driving a race car, you're working. Well, a lot of drivers are having to find unexpected mid-afternoon snacks right now to keep their blood sugar from dropping.
Yeah, okay, that works well. I've just seen on the timing screen that the number 71, Frank Depew, has resumed. So I'm not sure where he's resumed from or to, but that's now the last message, and that came in 15 seconds ago. I don't think you want to put a set of wet tyres on here, because you will have to stop. Although I suppose you're going to have to stop and change drivers anyway, so you might want to do that. And if you're allowed to do that, I would think for reasons of safety that IMSA will allow a tyre change in pit lane before you go back out if you wanted to put wets on. I haven't seen it declared a wet race yet, but the rain would have appeared to have stopped. The other thing I've noticed is that the wind speed, which just before the weather hit got up to 11, 12 kilometres an hour, is now, well, barely measurable, 1 kilometre an hour. So it does look like the weather that we've got now is going to be the weather that we'll have for a little while. Shea Adam is our VP Race Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter, and Jeremy Shaw is with me in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Basically, they're going to have to get their race heads back on as quickly as possible. And we've been talking about this 6 months layoff. They did look a little bit of rusty driving there in the first 5 laps or so, and now we've got to do it all again in less than favourable conditions, Jeremy. This might get really exciting really quickly.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, let's hope so. It's still going to be a little while, I think, before we get back to green, because I think we heard a little while ago that the whole pit lane has been evacuated, so it's going to take a while to get everybody back into place in their cars and ready to go again, which is really, really unfortunate. But yeah, there's certainly a lot to be played out in this race, and if you look at our pictures now, we can see some blue sky again, which is certainly a good sign. But gosh, yeah, there is really nothing predictable other than the unpredictability about the weather right now.
Broken cloud now coming from the direction east, mostly east, slightly from the south and east, but really from the east is where the weather was coming from. It really did look like Armageddon. That's twice in 2 weekends I've used that phrase, but now it does look a lot brighter. There's another little cell that's headed across south of Prairie Ridge and towards Sebring, coming up towards Lake Placid in the last few minutes, and that does look a bit nasty as it's bubbling up, getting towards the body of water. Hearing from the track, there was a lightning strike 5 minutes ago, so that restarted the 30-minute lightning clock. That was 5 minutes ago, just before 1/2 the hour. So there'll be nothing before the top of the next hour, which is now some 27 minutes away or thereabouts. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's the 30-30 rule that everyone is talking about. So it's got to be 30 minutes since the last strike, and it can't have been within 30 miles of the track. And that is the issue. And hearing from race control and also from our colleagues at Charlotte, and hello to everybody at NASCAR Productions. Nice to have you on board again for a Michelin Pilot Challenge. They're keeping an eye and an ear on what's going on as well, of course, with the IMSA race officials. Hello to Keith and the rest of the team in Charlotte, who gave us some fabulous pictures a few weekends ago from Daytona, in a race also that was, well, delayed in its start, so it meant it ended in the dark, actually, which I really rather enjoyed, bringing us, giving us some kinds of memories of the old Paul Revere 250, although it was only a 240 in terms of the hours and minutes, or the minutes, should I say. And it's Roger on the pictures for us this weekend. Hello, Roger. Thank you very much indeed for letting us see what's going on out of our view. I should say that whilst we have got pictures in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, all of our camera personnel have evacuated their places. So it's called in the trade locking off the camera. So they've pointed it at something that's interesting and then gone and sought shelter, as everyone else has in the pit lane as well. But with the full remote working now that NASCAR Productions have pioneered over the last few seasons, for IMSA in particular, we can still cut the pictures, because that actual physically cutting between the cameras is Roger, and he's sitting at Charlotte. So that's great. The cracks in the concrete giving us a clue, Shea, as how quick that track is drying.
You can see the cracks in the concrete even more visibly than normal, because as the water dries on the track, it sort of seeps away from the cracks. So we know that Sebring is bumpy. We know that there's lots of cracks in the concrete because it was World War II based Hendricks Airfield, which was first opened in 1946. It's an interesting place of history, but those cracks give you the perfect indication of just how quickly that concrete absorbs the water and moves it out of the way. It's getting dry out there. The problem is that little second shower system, it is moving in. As Keith D'Alessandro rightly said, there is more lightning in the area, so we're not done yet.
Right, as it stands at the moment, if you're looking at the timing and scoring, we've got Chad McCumbee and Scott Maxwell actually leading the race. I don't think that's true. They went around again. I'm pretty certain that McCumbee, Maxwell and Mosing went round again after the red flag and therefore crossed the timing line at start-finish, whereas Tyler Mcquarrie effectively came into the pit lane before that. So I think that will be reset if you're watching on timing and scoring using the internet for what it's really meant for, not looking for cat videos. Share, Adam, is all I'm saying. Although I did like your cat video. I did like your pizza box with the cat sitting on the top with the other cat in it.
Yeah, that was more of just a cat gif. It's like a little appetizer, not as much as a cat video. If you want cat videos, I'll send you a lot more.
No, really, no. It's enough that I get people sending me motor racing videos. I hardly have the time to watch them at the moment. If you're just joining us, we are on a weather hold. Lightning in the area of Sebring International Raceway. The last strike just before 1:30 the hour at local time. So that has reset the lightning clock. The race clock, which started at 2 hours, is down to 1 hour and 10 minutes, but it has now been paused. We are on a full hold at the moment. Drivers were asked to leave their cars at 3:05 local time. The pit lane was evacuated at 3:08. And Frank Leplieu got the 71 Camaro back to the pits at 3:30. So he has somehow got that car back around and into the pit lane. They won't be able to work on it at the moment. Barely, in fact, zero wind speed at the moment. The Stars and Stripes hanging very limply on the flagpole at the start-finish line beside the Cadillac Grand Prix of Sebring starter stand. That's the situation at the moment. Track damp but drying. All the cars went into the pit lane on slick Michelin tyres, and we believe Tyler Mcquarrie will be the car that leads out when we do get underway in the Audi, from Robbie Foley in the BMW, from Nate Stacey in the Aston, then Alan. Then I think behind them will be McCumbee, Maxwell and Mosing, then Brynjolfsson, then Claire, Galanti, Ferriol for the top 10. Best of the TCRs, although we'll restart, of course, behind the whole GS field. Harry Gottsacker. Can't talk enough about Harry, Jeremy. In that Hyundai Veloster, the Veloster is clearly the class of the TCR field, but when we got to the yellow and subsequently the red, he was halfway up the GS field as well.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah, he was just knocking on the door of the top 10 overall. Tremendous effort by Harry Gottsacker. He got half a dozen GS cars in between himself and the rest of the battle in TCR, or at least the battle amongst the Hyundais at least. And but he was long gone. But if and when we do get back to green flag racing, that all that good work is going to will be undone. So all it means though is he's going to have to do it again. And young Harry, he's been he's quite a talent again. He's another youngster in the TCR field. There's only, I think, 2 drivers over the age of 50. I guess it's 3 over the age of 50. 2 of them are actually 50 on the nail in the whole TCR category, and many of them are 20-year-olds or even younger than that. Parker Chase is just 19 years of age. I think is the youngest driver in the field, along with Dylan Murray. No, Dylan Murray's still only 18, actually, isn't he? He was born in September 01. Ooh, scary. But it's super to see so many youngsters in the TCR category and in the field in general.
With the VP Race Fuels Pit and Paddock report, this red flag gives us an opportunity to talk to even more drivers. And the start of the race was made quite entertaining by Robbie Foley, going from third to second, but following on the line in the Turner Motorsports BMW. And Robbie, you're driving the number 95 right now. You'll be driving the number 96 BMW later. How difficult is it for you to remember which car you're supposed to get back and get into?
Yeah, it's tricky, but so far so good. Luckily, they're the same. The only thing different is the seating position. Driving with Bill, I'm a little bit higher, a little bit closer to the wheel and pedals. With Vin, I'm the opposite. So that just takes a minute or two to get used to. But as far as GT4 cars go, they're more or less the same. So it's it's an interesting challenge. Kind of came up last minute, but something that Will asked if I would be up for, and definitely seems like a cool thing to do and try to ideally put two cars on the podium. But we'll see how the rest of the race goes, and then also have another 96 GTD car to drive. So definitely a busy weekend.
Yeah, it is for you. Now, talking about the GT4 car and the GT3 car, how different is the seating position within those for both you and Bill?
Yeah, it's different enough. The seats are actually the same, believe it or not. So you sit in a very similar kind of manner, but your GTD steering wheel is quite a bit more complicated, many more functions that you have to use during the race. And in general, you're a little bit more cramped in there. And the car itself is much faster, so you have higher G forces and your braking force is higher and things like that. But I've been doing it enough now to where I just, it takes half a lap maybe to get used to it. It's actually harder for me to go into the GT4 car from the GT3 because it's a lot slower. So you're expecting the car to do something that it doesn't do, basically, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's an interesting challenge. Something I really enjoy.
Hi, Robbie. It's John Hindorf in the booth here. BMW, I think, are unique in the fact that they use different models of cars for their entry level, which is now the M2, used to be the 235, 240, then M4 for GT4, M6 for GT3, and M8 for GTE. Does that actually help you as a driver if you're jumping in between them with your co-drivers to at least have a little bit of a different feel rather than some of the manufacturers where they're all based on the same platform?
Yeah, I think it definitely keeps you fresh. I've been lucky enough to drive most of BMW's race cars, and yeah, it's an interesting challenge. As you say, in the M4 you have a certain style of driving, a certain feeling in the car. The car wants certain things. The M6 is totally different. M8, M2, everything is a little bit different. So I think for me, it keeps me fresh. I always enjoy driving as many cars as possible and have driven a variety of platforms in the last couple of years. And I think it just keeps your mind very open. If you drive one car specifically with one kind of powertrain, one kind of driving style with a certain drivability in the engine, maybe you are a little bit slower to adapt to the next car you drive, where I think, one advantage that, myself, maybe Bill, and a lot of the other drivers have is jumping between all different kinds of platform. Keeps you very fresh and I guess your fundamentals are always having to be sharp because the cars need and want different things, and you're always reacting and adapting to those things. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
And when we had what our responsible adult Eve is calling the big pause, you were one of the foremost proponents of the IMSA Pro Racing I series. You had a good time in that, and then you were helping develop the new BMW M4 for iRacing, which debuted about a month or so ago. What's it like working with the development of a car in the virtual world rather than the real world?
Yeah, it's really cool. I've always been relatively interested in iRacing, but I never was as serious at it as I became when the whole pandemic started. So for me, it was something I really enjoyed, and the development process is cool. It's very similar to real life, but in a sense, I you're trying to match the virtual car to the real one. So taking your real world experience, we compare data from the real car to the virtual car and try to match it identically. But I just got the word we have 5 minutes to get in the car, so I better run.
All right, we'll let you go. Thanks for joining us on the VP Fuels Pit and Paddock Report. That was Robbie Foley. We'll let him go.
Talk to you soon.
Cheers, mate. Have a good
Thanks,
one.
Robbie.
Well, that's good news then. I'm hearing from Race Control that we are only about 5 minutes from the drivers getting back in. So that's lightning strike a few minutes ago. That must have been a spurious report, so apologies for passing that on. An hour and 10 on the clock at the moment. The question I really wanted to ask, if we'd had time for Robbie there at the end of that, Jeremy, is looking at the track, is it wets or dry tyres? But I think there's no choice now. You've got to go back out on slicks, haven't you? It looks really dry.
It does, yeah. And as Shay was saying, with the humidity there, or even with the humidity, it will dry out very, very quickly. So no, you have to stay on slicks out there now, I think, and it's going to be pretty tricky probably for a few laps. But then we certainly haven't had a lot of rain out there, and it's been a little while, I think, since we've had any precipitation. So the good news is we should get back to green, we should get back to slick racing, and it'll be pretty interesting. But I know some of the teams, particularly in TCR, they were hoping for the rain to continue. They want the lightning to go away, but they want the rain to continue, get onto wet weather tyres, and then maybe somebody else will have something for the Hyundais that are very much, it would appear, the class of the field in TCR.
And even better news, we have official vehicles moving around now as things are beginning to come back to normal, and the camera we've got people back at their posts. I can see Taddy on the starter stand waving the red flag rather than just hanging it out there. Share what you're hearing from the pit and paddock.
Many, many thanks to Nick Tandy, who's being a spy for us right now. He said that the camera people are actually heading back out onto their pit stand. So it's good to see that our camera operators are getting to go once again. And it will be sketchy for the first couple of laps that they go back out there on the slick tires. But after they do that, they will get back to green flag racing.
And remember, we stopped the clock at 70 minutes, 1 hour and 10 minutes to go. We'll give you the rundown of how they line up, but I believe it will be Tyler Mcquarrie who leads the cars around in the Audi R8. So if you see the dark grey and green car in behind the Cadillac SUV, which is acting as our safety car this weekend for the Cadillac Grand Prix event here at Sebring. Oh, I think I can even hear engines beginning to start here. It does take a wee while to get everything warmed up again. Even the GT4 and the TCR cars have a warm-up sequence that the engineers have to go through. We should be rolling just before the top of the hour is what we're hearing, and just able to see the very lovely Porsche Cayenne going across the start-finish line. That's one of our AMR safety and intervention vehicles that is going across the traditional start-finish line. Remember, all of these cars are on the back straight in the WEC pits. The other thing we're going to have to find out, and I know, Shay, you're already on this, is what drive times have been adjusted to and what difference that will make. But as it stands now, with 5 laps down, and so that's a couple of warm-up laps and 5 racing laps, an hour and 10 to go. It won't be long, Jeremy Shaw, before we're in the window for a final pit stop.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it'll probably be 15 minutes or so before they'll be able to come onto the pit lane and...
In terms of fuel, yeah, what we're waiting for is the strategic consideration of minimum drive time. Well, coming up to 10 minutes before 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Central Florida, with damp patches on the track, but at least with activity in the pit lane. And a reminder that Frank Depew did get that Camaro back into the pit lane. So we'll see whether that car rejoins and where it rejoins. The other thing to watch out for when we get going is the number 14 of Anton Diaz Pereira, the Bluff City Racing Auto Metrics Motorsport AMG GT4. That car will have to do a drive-through. He jumped the start, the original start, which seems almost as long ago as the last round of this race, the last round of this championship now. Not quite that long ago. Thanks for sticking with us. I hope we've provided you with some information and some entertainment. Got the sweepers out as well on the apices of the corners, out to turn 3 at the moment. I presume, Jeremy, that McCumbee, Maxwell and Mosing will be put back, at the very least be put into their positions, which I think are 4th, 5th and 6th, aren't they, when the red flag came out?
Yeah, I've tried to get a clarification on that as well, but haven't heard back yet. But the rules are pretty clear. If you don't obey the red flag, don't expect anything good to happen, basically. And it's not as if they were the first cars out in the front there. There were the three cars ahead of them all came into the pit. So a bit strange that they didn't come in and follow everybody else. I would expect that they would be made to restart at the back of the field. But as I say, no firm word as yet.
Right. The worst that can happen to them, we believe, and, always dangerous, is that they will be put to the back of the GS field. They won't go back to the back of the whole field. That would cause, obviously, a safety issue with them having to charge through the TCR class. Although, I've got to say, Jeremy, in these conditions, I think I'd fancy my luck a little bit more in a TCR car than with cold, slick tyres, if that's what they have to go out on. I'll imagine they would be allowed to change to wets if they wanted to. But I'd quite fancy myself in a front-wheel drive car in these conditions.
Completely agree with you there. Yes, it's perfect conditions for these TCR cars right now. They'll be able to put the power down. The cars will be sliding around a fair bit, but I think they should be able to get more rubber to the road in terms of grip than the GS cars in these conditions. But just watching the blower there on track, there's very little moisture at all on the racetrack out through the carousel area.
Yeah, and it would appear that we are getting a little bit of movement. The track temperature, even in the last 15 minutes since I last mentioned it, it's gone up from 29 to 32 Celsius. Air temperature holding steady at 27. Humidity after the shower, as you might imagine, up to 80%. Wind, well, negligible. Still just 2 kilometres an hour. But that drying effect and that heat soak effect that Shea was talking about clearly kicking in as far as the track temperature is concerned. So we are, I reckon, 3 or 4 minutes away from getting things underway. We've got engineers and officials with the cars. Engineers there to help start up, officials to make sure that nothing is done to the car that's not supposed to be. Most of the cars I can see with drivers in them. We've got one of the PF Mustangs. Now I think these are the cars that were out of kilter. I think that's the Chad McCumbee car driving down the pit lane, followed by Scott Maxwell in the Multimatic car behind him. Yes, it is. Oh, the Cayennes have got new decals on the back of the cars with the red and yellow chevrons, the high-vis chevrons on the back. I've just noticed that. Didn't see that at Sebring.
No, well, that'll be as a result. There was a press release came out this morning about some new IMSA safety tie-ups, basically, with Holmatros coming on board and somebody else. Let me try and find that press release.
Oh, okay, brilliant. It is the what we call in the UK the high vis. It's I think it's called Chapter 8 or something like that. in the meantime, we have got racing going on with the grass cutting equipment out on the fields around Sebring International Raceway at the moment. I think we can say that those three cars, PF Racing's Mustang with Chad McCumbee, Scott Maxwell for Multimatic, and Jeff Mosing for Murillo, they are being put back in position. So unofficially, and this is Hindhaugh talking here, so you know this could go horribly wrong, but I think it'll be Tyler Mcquarrie leading off behind the Cadillac safety SUV, followed by Robbie Foley, Nate Stacey, then McCumbee, Maxwell and Mosing, as we are getting safety vehicles moving from the back straight pit lane. Then Alan Brynjolfsson, you can't miss the highlighter yellow Volt car. Behind him, James Clay in the Bimmerworld World Racing car, then his teammate Nicola Gallant in the 80. Then Hardpoint, welcome to the series, Rob Ferriol. What a way to get started. Then Harry Gottsacker is next in line, but I presume that during the formation laps, there'll be a wave by of all the GS cars. So that means Automatic Racing and Russell Ward for Winwood. Russell only in 12th position after that first lap collision. Then BGB, then Bryce Ward, Russell's dad, then Sheena Monk, then the second Automatic Racing car, then the second Turner Motorsports car with Vin Barletta, the 96 car, then Diaz Pereira, who had that spin earlier, and then it should be Tim Probert, and then Riley, yes, I think so, and then if it's allowed to restart, it'll be the 71 Rebel Rock, and then we'll see all the TCR cars. Eventually they will line up behind, which should be Gottsacker in the 21 Veloster, Waddell in the 47, then Norman in the 33, then Waddell in the 47. Sorry, they're mixed in with the TCR cars at the moment. Then the 23 now that's the Fast MD car. Did that pass before the red? Must have. Then Mason Filippi. Then the black Alpha with the dark red accents, which looks great. Then the second carbon. Oh no, that's out of position. So then it'll be Johnson in the JDC Miller car, the 54. Then McCarthy in the 32. That's the other Audi. Then the best of the Honda Civics, Dakota Dickinson, who's made up a position and is ahead of Gavin Ernstone in Road Shagger Racing's number 61 Audi. Then it'll be the rest of the Hondas behind. And of course there's the 29, which stopped, didn't it? So that one will be right to the back as well for Spencer Brockman. And there are, Shea Adam, a mix of tyres on the pit wall. Yeah, we've got some new slicks, we've got some new wets. There's no intermediates. And I can hear from our PA colleagues a call to action on the pit lane, PA. Shea, go ahead.
Yes, I've just been speaking actually with Luis Pericarpi, who is the team owner and lead guru for the LAP Honda World, all three of their cars. A few years ago, we had a race where things were influenced by rain and people going to wet tires versus people staying on dry tires. If you remember that, it was at Watkins Glen, and his car stayed on dry tires. They wound up coming back and winning the race over the Hyundai at the last minute, a thriller. That was last year at Watkins Glen, so about 13 months ago. Just talking to Louise now, and he said, hey, our only hope is if we stay on the dry tires and if it rains again and we have good wet weather drivers in the cars. That's exactly what they're hoping for. So let's see if we can't get another little bit of a rain shower to come in and mix things up, because anything can happen at this point.
Jeremy Shaw with a couple of updates. First of all, as we are rolling, the new equipment suppliers for the safety team, Jeremy.
Yeah, the whole Matro safety equipment, they've been around, particularly in IndyCars, for many, many years. Some of the best extrication equipment out there. And also ESI equipment, a supplier of fire suppression equipment both joined the IMSA paddock as official safety providers for IMSA, so a good step forward there, certainly no question about that. Also indebted to Lee Driggers, I think, who has passed along the minimum drive time rule per the IMSA rulebook, rule 1211.5, drive time during red flag. If drive time is stopped during a red flag period during a race, the minimum drive time is reduced by a percentage commensurate to the time lost from the original scheduled time of the race. I could go on. Would you like me to go on?
No.
It's going to be reduced, but basically.
So we lost.
How much is going to be mighty difficult for us to compute.
Just under half. We lost 50 minutes of 120. Work that one out.
In that case, it should be reduced by 50% in that case, so down to 20 minutes.
Right, okay. In the pit lane, now that the red flag has been lifted and the clock has started again, but from that 1 hour 20, we have got a new wheel going on to the right rear of the number 29 Hyundai Veloster. That's the white, green and black car, and that paddles out. It did not lose the lead lap. It did lose a chunk of its wheel, but the Michelin Pilot tyre stayed inflated. The new Cadillac CT SV is leading the field around in bright red. Oh, how I love that car. Looks absolutely super. Looks big. Looks like it would be very comfy for long European drives to motor races whilst the airlines haven't got themselves back sorted out. Don't you think, Shane? Don't you think? There's bound to be a European version.
Yeah, I'm sure. My dad has long actually joked about how we need a CTSV for the long drive up to Canada.
Absolutely.
But it would be perfectly comfortable for he and my mom. And of course, the two cats could have the back seats. My mom's response was, yes, but where will our luggage go? And Dad said, well, you'll just have to bring less.
Oh, he's a brave man, Bill Adam. He's a brave man. Hello to Bill and to Hayan, who I'm sure are tuned in. Our best wishes to you in this difficult time for everybody, but it's great to have a bit of racing to distract us, isn't it? An hour and 7 already, and I would expect one more safety car lap after this to allow everybody to have had a little bit of feel of the conditions. And what I'm seeing now are the TCR cars dropping back, Jeremy, so we are going to get a split restart.
Yes, no question about that. We will certainly reset the field, so we'll have the GS cars ahead of all the TCR. So Harry Gottsacker is going to have to do it all again at the restart and make his way through the GS cars. And I think this time he's going to make even more progress than he did before.
Yeah,
remarkable effort it was.
I agree. And all I can think, if it's Harry, it's the moment he's going, "Ooh, hurrah, more fun with GS cars." He is a glass half full sort of person. So Tyler Mcquarrie leads from Robbie Foley and Nate Stacey. Audi, BMW, Aston Martin are making it 4 manufacturers in the first 4 positions as we are on effectively the formation laps again. And the Advent Health 120 actually came down to the Advent Health 1 hour and 10 minutes, and a problem for the 57. That's Bryce Ward in the silver colours of Winward Racing, and that looks like he may have lost the engine on that AMG GT4. We'll keep an eye on that. I think that was coming out of turn 10. Certainly wasn't. Oh, the safety car lights are out. The safety car lights are out, so we may be going racing straight away. Let's see what happens here. The CTSV has gently used the awesome torque and power of that engine and pulled away from the field, and we are going for a restart. It's still dampened. Turn 17, they'll have to be careful applying the throttle as we come back to green. And the Advent Health 120 with 1 hour and 5 minutes almost exactly to go on the clock is back underway. Tyler Mcquarrie in the Audi. Remember, only 2-wheel drive. No all-wheel drive cars allowed. Rear-wheel drive in GS, front-wheel drive in TCR, under still slightly threatening skies over to the north and damp circuit. with, I believe, all of the cars still on slick tyres. We haven't had any reports of anyone changing the tyres, and indeed that would have broken park firming conditions, and I did not see any announcement from race control that had been declared a wet race. Certainly didn't come up on the race control channel that we're watching. It was turn 11, by the way, for the spin for Bryce, and now another spin, and this time it's one of the automatic Astons. It's the 09 car, Rahman Abdul Vahabi, who's gone around, but everyone's managed to miss him. He's had to go onto the track, which will be damp just about. Jeremy gets back in, but there would have been some heart-in-mouth moments there for the 09 crew.
And the good news is nobody seems to have made any contact with him, so Ramin's able to get that car back underway again. And we're out at the front of the field here is that number 39 car, defending series champion Tyler Mcquarrie. He'll be using all his drifting experience here to good effect. But Robbie Foley is staying right with him there in that Turner Motorsport BMW.
Yeah, and then it's the Aston Martin, then it's the first of the Fords. Chad McCumbee for PF was put back into line, so that little fumble at the red flag hasn't cost them anything, and I think that's sensible officiating. I really do. They're not using their normal pit lane. They hadn't come back across the start-finish line to see the red flag, so a little bit of confusion. Oh, and it's the other automatic car. This time it's the 99 car. So that's the Ferrera car that has gone around, and again in elegant isolation with nobody there, and Gary's managed to get him back in the pointing in the right direction, and I suppose you'd say no harm, no foul there, really.
Well, again, it would appear no damage once again, so that was a stroke of luck there for Ramin Abdul Vahabi. But the one thing about those cars that did not come in to the pits when the red flag was shown, as we see Jeff Mosing under intense pressure here, moving around the outside of him is Nick Gallant, I think, in car number 8, or James Clay probably was, in number 82 car, the two Pimmin World BMWs right in there. Those three cars, or the 2 or 3 cars that went all the way around, they've done one more lap than everybody else.
That's a good point.
May or may not be significant.
Albeit at very slow speeds, but yes, Jeremy, you're absolutely right. If there was, 0.4 of a lap or 0.8 of a lap, or 1 lap or 0.6, it makes a heck of a difference. 0.8 of a second at the front of the field. Mcquarrie from Foley, then Stacey, McCumbee, Maxwell. James Clay was in the 82 car, then Jeff Mosing, then Nick Gallant, then an Alan Brynjolfsson doing a grand job in the 718 Cayman for Archangel Motorsport. But again, the Audi has broken the toe, and at the moment is breaking the hearts of Robbie Foley and Nate Stacey in the BMW, and the Aston Martin following in behind. Can't miss the pink PF car of Chad McCumbee as they're on the far side of the circuit. 1.5 seconds between first and second, and it's as you were an hour or so ago. That's how long the delay has been, with second and third absolutely together. The addition this time, Jeremy, is that Chad McCumbee and Scott Maxwell are right there as well. So just coming down to an hour still to go, with the drive times reduced according to the percentage of the race we lost. Well, we lost 50 minutes of a 1 hour 20, which is 41.6%. So that is the amount of time that the minimum race time will be reduced by. Leader then on the back straight past their pits. They will pit on the back straight, but the finish line is on the front straight. No confusion there at all. It is now 1 hour to go. Looks like Tyler Mcquarrie's had another good lap. Meantime, the buzzing 2-litre engines of the TCR class, it's still Harry Gottsacker, who's already back up into 12th position, but this time, Jeremy, he's dragged a couple of other Hyundais along with him, notably Ryan Norman in the 33 car, and the 21 is the darker coloured of the two. Then Ryan in the bright red car is probably 5 or 6, maybe a little more now, car lengths behind. Then the Sheena Monk in the GS car, and behind Sheena is Ben Waddell in the 47 Motorsports car. That's the terracotta and grey car. And the Hyundais, I find myself, I'm sure people will be thinking I'm talking nonsense here, but no doubt here that the TCRs and the Hyundais in particular are being held up through the corners, Jeremy Shaw, by the GS cars around them. So Harry is checking out again, and Shea Adam, Harry, as I said before, very positive individual. He'll be loving this challenge, but this time he hasn't got the comfort of having cars between them, and he's now got, in fact, Norman and Waddell right behind him.
And that will be making Harry Gottsacker a little bit nervous. Right now, leading the TCR car class with the fastest lap in class as well. Harry, coming off of last year, finishing 4th in the race. So he's looking for a little bit better of a finishing position. But knowing that you are in what is the strongest car in the class, the Hyundai, which after qualifying, locking out the top 5, and then knowing you've got 3 of those cars behind you, 2 of them being your teammates chasing you down, that's going to be a little nerve-wracking.
I'm very impressed again, Jeremy Shaw, with Tyler Mcquarrie. It could have been a nasty time for him, but he's concentrated on what he had to do. And again, broke away to over a second. It's not quite that much at the moment, but Mcquarrie, absolutely textbook restart.
Yeah, very much so. And Chad McCumbie's hanging right there, really doing an excellent job in these slippery conditions there. The track looks pretty much dry there. Last time around for the leaders was a 2 minutes 29, so that's a long way away. It's 15 seconds or more away from their best laps earlier in this race. But what a battle now is developing in TCR. The first lap of green. Yeah, for the first lap of green, Harry Gottsacker had nearly 5 seconds over the rest of the pack, no longer.
And now Harry
fallen back.
Yeah, and now Harry's problem is Rob Ferriol in the Hardpoint Motorsport Audi. He's up along the inside into turn 1, and he might get that to new second place in TCR as the 47 Motorsports. Benjamin Waddell's gone through in the terracotta and grey Veloster. It's still 3 Velosters. But now right in the middle of that battle is Rob Ferriol in the GS Audi. At the front of the field, top 5 are pretty much as one as they head out of the hairpin on the far side of the circuit. And the lead that was over a second is down to a couple of tenths, is down to a car's length now between Mcquarrie and the Audi. And the Turner Motorsport BMW of Foley has a look down the inside at turn number 10, and sitting in, just watching, just waiting, just planning and scheming. Chad McCumbie for PF, and he's got Scott Maxwell big in his mirrors. And the top 5 cars now separated, Jeremy Shaw, by 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, that's really close now, and there's game on, isn't it, at the front of the field. 55 minutes remaining in this race. It won't be too long now before the cars can come into the pits and be able to get to the finish of this race with just one fuel stop. So it's going to be really interesting to see who comes in first, who elects to wait it out a little bit, and then make their mandatory pit stop. It'll be just one pit stop though in this race.
Yeah. So we had 14 minutes before the red flag. No, not even that much. We only had 5 laps, didn't we? So we had just on 10 minutes before the red flag was thrown, and we've now had another 15 minutes. Not all of green, but that all counts as race time. It's not green flag time. So we've had about 25 minutes of race time. And what was the minimum drive time, Jeremy? Remind me.
Originally 40 minutes, but I think it's probably going to be now around about 20, so I think we've probably just about covered that. It'll be pretty much any time now, I think, that they will be okay to make their first pit stops.
Right, if it was 40 originally, then Let me see. It should be. It's 16 minutes, 16.64 minutes, or 16 minutes and 40 seconds, or thereabouts, is the time. You take off 41%, which is what we've lost in the race. Change at the front of TCR, and the only one in the top three who's held his position is Ben Waddell. We've got Ryan Norman who's gone through the lead, and Godzak has dropped back, and he's dropped back behind a couple of GS cars as well. So there's been a bit of RG and possibly Bargy down there in the just outside the top 10 overall. But at the moment, at the front of the field, it is game on. Mcquarrie, Stacey, Foley, Macumbi, Maxwell, then a 4-second gap back to 6th. Two Bimmerworld cars running line astern. 82 James Clay from Nick Gallant in the number 80, and they've got time to make up at the moment, but they've got a 4-second gap back to Jeff Mosing from Murillo Racing in the 56, the Tangerine and black car. Brynjolfsson's in the bright yellow 718, and the top 10 Russell Ward in the dark grey Winward Racing AMG GT4. Jeremy Shaw.
Last time around for the race leader, 1 minute 21.7 was his lap time. The fastest car on the track that last lap around was actually Nick Gallant in the 6th place Bimmerworld BMW car number 80. He did a 2:19.6. The best of the TCR cars, well, that would have been Ryan Norman, who is leading the class in TCR in the 11th position overall. He turned a 2:21.9, so almost identical to the overall race leader.
And Mason Filippi has had, no, it was the 99, but Mason Filippi was listed as going slowly. Has he been into the pits? No, he hasn't. It was the 99 that's had another spin. Was that just before the restart? That must have been at the restart. Sorry, I'm looking at a duplicate message there. So 7/10 again at the front of the field. Mcquarrie using the battle behind him just to break away and build himself a tiny little bit of a cushion. That Aston Martin looks good. It looks low as well. The BMW M4 ahead of it, and even the Mustang behind. And we have got a pit stop. In comes the number 37, Chris Miller, behind the wheel of the Honda as he peels off into the pit. Now that would suggest to me, Jeremy, that they're quite happy to go 50 minutes or thereabouts for Shelby Blackstock to take that car to the end.
Yeah, and I think maybe another couple of laps, I would suggest the GS leaders will be onto the pit lane as well. The track is drying out. It looks pretty much dry, doesn't it, from the pictures? But 2 minutes 17.7 last time around for Tyler Mcquarrie, so 4 full seconds quicker than his previous lap. He's now extended his gap just a little bit over that gaggle of cars fighting with 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th positions. And Nick Gallant continuing to do a really good job there in 6th place. He's got ahead of his teammate and team principal James Clay. Nick Gallant, a former ST champion, is running right there in the 6th position in car number 80.
Yeah, and Nick has closed up considerably on that battle for 2nd through to 5th position. Now only 1 second behind that. Remember, it was 4 not so long ago. Shelby Blackstock now installed into the Honda on the back straight. He'll come out as the leaders go by. That's the GS leaders that are going by. Well, that's an early stop. No tyre warmers, remember, here. So with the time still a good 5 seconds or so away from what we saw in the first 5 laps of the race, you can only imagine that there's still some damp patches and that the tyres haven't come up to temperature and pressure. Here are the TCR leaders coming into the pit lane. Shea Adam.
In from 3rd and 4th positions, the 21 and the 98 Brian Herta Autosports Hyundais. Those are the 2 that were 1st and 2nd in the championship last year, with the same 4 drivers that were 1st and 2nd in the championship, but now it's split. It looks like it's going to be fuel and tires as well as driver change for both cars. I'll keep you posted if anything unexpected happens.
New second place as Robbie Foley has has been slightly elbowed aside. It was strong driving from both, and the Aston Martin now up into 2nd position. Stacey then up into 2nd position as the brand new slick tyres. I did wonder if 1 or 2 people might just stay on the tyres they started on because they've done so little work. But that looked to me, Shea Adam, like front tyres only, certainly for the black number 21.
Correct. Sticker tires for that 21, which now has Canadian Mark Wilkins behind the wheel, and his co-champion from last year, Mike Lewis, gets out just behind him in the blue number 98. Both of them took new sticker front tires.
What I'm very interested to see now, and I know the Hondas haven't been running at the front of the field, Jeremy Shaw, but what is the lap times of Shelby Blackstock, because he was the one that was in first, so he'll get a lap to get his tyres up. And Shelby, of course, won this race last year. Doesn't look like the Honda is liking the Sebring conditions so much this year.
No, it doesn't, does it? They're certainly struggling compared to the Hyundais here. They don't have the pace at all. But you know, these conditions will certainly play into Shelby Blackstock's hands somewhat. He's a very talented driver, and he's going to do his best to make up the ground. He's a lap down to the overall leaders, but not to the class leaders in TCR, so you don't have to worry about that. But just look at the lap times continuing to come down here. 2 minutes 16.4 last time around for our race leader Tyler Mcquarrie. Fastest car on the track last time, once again though, was Nick Gallant in 6th position. The other guy who's charging hard is Russell Ward in car number 4. Had it be the error on the first lap, dropped to the back of the field, he's turning some very quick laps up inside the top 10 for car number 4.
BP Race Fuels pit report, and we have our TCR leader into the pits, which means that Ben Waddell finally in the 47-47 Motorsports Hyundai gets to lead a lap, but Ryan Norman into the pit lane, handing over to Gabi Chavez, who will be taking over and getting, once again, sticker front tires for Hyundai. That is all that they are planning to do, it seems, for the entire BHA organization. Their 4th car is the one that had the damage before the red flag came out, so I'd expect that car to play out a little bit longer since it has front tires.
That means it will be fuel that is the determining factor. You should be able to get the driver change done, but it doesn't look like it's all going according to plan. Incoming driver, I think, Shea, was sitting on the belts.
Yep, and that was not a good stop for them. It meant that the fueling probe came out before they were able to get the door shut. Still in the pit lane, still trying to get the belts done up for Gabi Chavez. This is disaster for the 33, as we have many other TCR cars in the pit lane as well. The 23 of Max Faulkner is in. The Fast MD Audi will be handing over to James Vance. Roy Block is in for the only Alpha in the field. That will be a driver change there too, as well as Gavin Ernstone is in the Road Shadow Racing Audi. That will be John Morley taking over there. And Michael Johnson, having done his part in the 54 JDC Miller Motorsports Audi, hands over to Steven Simpson, who once again this weekend, double duty for Steven, so all is right in the world.
And that's 4 new Michelin tyres for the number 54, so that is a little different to the Hyundais at the front of the TCR field.
Change for second place, John. Nate Stacey has got past Robbie Foley, so the Aston Martin, now car number 60, is into second position, and he's closed right up on Tyler Mcquarrie, and then battle now for the lead as they head around turn 17.
Yeah, it was a smashing side-by-side move that we had a chance to look at as they were going through turn 3. Pretty elbows out for both drivers, but that Aston is quick, and that Aston sweeps through in between the Alpha and the leader, and round the outside, Buffalo Gals at the first corner pit, but it's still turn 1, and Aston Martin leads as the rain is falling. The rain is falling again. Now this is going to be crucial as to how heavy this is and how long these cars can go before they have to make a decision on what tyres they need to put on. But Nick Stacey doing an absolutely tremendous job in that 6-0 car as he has driven through the field. Once he dealt with the BMW, he closed down on the leader very quickly and then drove past on the front straight. Windscreen wiper going, and it's clearly very localised in the first 3 or 4 corners of the circuit, and now Robbie Foley goes into second. There must be a problem for the Carbon car. The 39 losing pace here, Jeremy, a 2:15 last time, a 2:16 last time around, when everybody else's lap times were getting quicker.
Yeah, indeed. That's certainly the new best lap on that lap for Russell Ward in kind of a full 1 minute, 2 minutes 15.0. Actually, Scott Maxwell was a couple of tenths quicker than that, but that was the best lap of Russell Ward's race so far. So the track certainly is drying out quite considerably, even though the not that brief shower notwithstanding. So it's really tricky out there right now. And the leaders all staying out. We've had the first couple of GS cars into the pit lane. Number 7 car has been in for a pit stop. That is Alan Brynjolfsson to hand over to Trent Hinman. Also, Rob Ferriol, who was running inside the top 10 as well, has just pitted the Team Hardpoint Audi. He will hand over that car number 31 to Spencer Pompelli.
Seems there's light rain falling at probably at sunset at turn 17, and then around the first maybe 3 or 4 corners. It's very light, but you can see it on the windscreens of the car. Once in a while, I'm seeing the Nate Stacey Aston, very distinctive wiper pattern. They start in the middle and wipe back out again. In TCR, Ben Waddell leads for 47 Motorsport, but has not yet made a race pit stop. Side window is down, window net is up, that's fine. He's getting a bit of fresh air through there. Dakota Dickerson, see above, he has not made a race pit stop yet, and he is up to 2nd position in TCR in the LAP Motorsports LA Honda World Civic, and that's 77 now, 12th position overall, and just under 20 seconds away from the leader. So Dickerson turning in a cracking run at the moment. First of the cars, TCR cars that have stopped, I reckon, is the 21 of Mark Wilkins, Jeremy. After that little bit of a fumble for their teammate, I think they're the leaders of the cars that have stopped in TCR.
Yeah, indeed so. And the two, they were teammates last year, won the championship together, Mark Wilkins and Michael Lewis, now running on corrected times, if you like. As you say, the first have made their pit stops are 3rd and 4th overall. James Vance is about 7 or 8 seconds behind in 3rd place in car number 23, with his Fast MD teammate Michael McCarthy, young Michael McCarthy, making his debut in this championship in a very close 4th position.
Dakota Dickerson then in the yellow and black Honda. Now in comes the 95, Robbie Foley. Now he has to come in first of the 2 Turner BMWs, because if he doesn't and the other car comes in first, he's not there to get in it, because he is driving 2 cars in the race. So they have to coordinate this perfectly. Robbie is already out of the number 95, and that is a very familiar driver figure that's getting in, Shea Adam.
Robbie out, and Billy Oberlin gets into the number 95 Turner Motorsport BMW. And as you rightly said, it would have been a situation where Robbie was waiting to get into the 96, but he was still on track in the 95. He runs down the pit wall and goes and jumps on it, because guess what? It's time for him to drive another race car. So for Robbie, the busy day continues. He doesn't even get an opportunity to take his helmet off or perhaps get a drink of water. It's straight back to business.
I don't dislike that. He hasn't had a lot of work to do, so he's not having to take his helmet off. Here comes the 96 car, and let's go back to Shea Adam for another VP Racing Fuels pit update.
This is Vin Barletta coming in the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. You can tell it's different because it's all yellow. The 95 has a white hood. So they will be bringing this car into a stop. Robbie waves it down, goes, hey, I think this looks kind of familiar. I know how to drive a BMW around here. Car hits its marks perfectly. And once again, 4 tires for the Turner Motorsport BMW, as they are, yes, they are stickers. I did see a little sticker on there. Robbie plugs himself back into a race car, having stood on a pit wall for all of, 62 seconds before he gets to drive again. And now refamiliarizing himself with the different seating positions. He told us during the red flag, it's slightly different from the one he has in the 95 in the car he shares with Phil. The door gets closed, waiting on the right side tires now, and the fuel, but another good stop from Turner's Boys and Girls. I think they've earned some tacos.
I think you're absolutely right. I think they've got a slight problem though. Right front still going on. Fuel is out. There was a wee problem with the wheel gun, and still working there. So that's cost them a bit of time. Nate Stacey coming in from the lead in the Aston Martin. Let's go back down to Shea.
This will be Nate Stacey handing over to Kyle Marcelli, a guy who has 5 laps around Sebring International Raceway this week in that Aston Martin, as they lost the entirety of the first session due to an unknown gremlin that they were trying to diagnose. Car stopped out on track, so Kyle did not get very much running over the course of the weekend. But now he'll more than make up for that, having Nate Stacey brought the car in from the lead of the race. They are doing 4 tires and fuel, and just behind them, the pit board waiting for Bimmer World, as Nick Galante has come into the pit, and he is handing over to his co-driver, as Devin Jones should also be coming in. Dylan McIntyre, by the way, with Nick Galante, but Devin Jones should also be getting his opportunity to drive, as James Clay has come into the pits in the number 82. We have the number 4 Mercedes. That is the Windward racing car. That's Russell Ward getting out and handing over to his co-driver, Indy Doncic. So we'll get to see what Indy gets to do around Sebring. This car did not participate in the race last year because of a crash in qualifying. So Indy about to go and race around Sebring for the first time in his career. 4 tire change almost done on the Mercedes, as the Aston has got rolling once again. So a great stop from the core guys. And now Tyler Mcquarrie is leading once more, but he won't be out there for too much longer because Jeff Westfall is up on the wall.
Shea Adam with the VP Racing Fuels pit report. Did notice as well, as we wait for the leader to come in, that Sebastian Priaulx has gone out in the number 22 Multimatic Ford Mustang. He's down 11th in class. That's because Ben Waddell is now 3rd overall, by the way, in the 47 Motorsports Hyundai. A great story about the family Priaulx in this difficult time, particularly from anybody going backwards and forwards to Europe, Shea.
Yeah, they decided that it's a little bit smarter to stay over here, and well, you don't want to be staying in a bunch of hotels around the country at this point in time if you're trying to avoid getting sick. So Seb and his father Andy have rented a motorhome, in effect, that they are towing around with what looks like a giant Ford F-350, driving from race to race and enjoying a little bit of father-son time while driving race cars. As somebody else who's in driving a race car is coming into the pit lane, and that is Chad McCumbee, who is in the number 40, the PF Racing Pink Mustang. He promised us some bright fire suits coming up pretty soon, so we won't be long seeing the white one, as he has pulled his car into the box and is hopping out, handing over to James Pesic, who is the normal driver for that car, the full season driver for the number 40s. Chad is filling in here and there, fuel and tires for that Mustang as well, as Tyler Mcquarrie, our leader, actually stayed out that last time around, but Ben Waddell came into the pit lane. So the 47 Motorsport Hyundai, the number 47 and team name 47, comes into the pit lane. They too are doing fuel, but only front tires on that Hyundai.
Yeah, and they've got to watch for the number 21 of Mark Wilkins and Brian Herter's car coming round in 11th position overall at the moment, because that car has done its stop. So that's the car they're racing in this pit stop. I know we haven't had the full 2 hours, Jeremy Shaw, but plenty going on here, and the pit crews are earning their money this afternoon.
They are indeed, and Trent Hinman, he made his pit stop for fresh tyres and the driver change taken over from Alan Brynjolfsson a couple of laps ago. So we see the TCR leader, Ben Waddell, onto pit lane in that 47 Motorsports car number 47. He will hand over that car to Missouri City in Texas is Alex Papadopoulos. That car rejoins. Good pit stop there for the TCR leader up until now. But I was talking about Trent Hinman. He's just turned that car's best lap of the race. 2 minutes 12.994 last time around for Trent Hinman. He's come out of the pits ahead of quite a few of the other cars, including several who have already made pit stops. Kyle Marcelli, I think, is ahead of Trent Hinman. I'll have to wait and see where Tyler Mcquarrie resumes after he makes his pit stop. His last lap was a 2 minutes 14.6. Here is the number 39 car, the race leader, onto pit lane.
Yeah, and with 35 minutes to go, this has got to be a cracking stop. He's got 1 minute and 21 on Kyle Marcelli in the Core Motorsport car. Trent Hinman up to net 2nd or 3rd, depending on how quick they service this car in the pit lane now. The Archangel Motorsport 718 is on a tear. Shea Adam with the VP Racing Fuel pit lane report.
much all the same crew, the same guys, the same family that managed to get it done and managed to get the race win 1 year ago as Jeff Westfall jumps in behind the wheel of the Audi and Tyler Mcquarrie helps belt his co-champion into the car. They know that this is where the race is won and lost, is in the pit lane at this point in the race. And with everybody else chasing, Jeff Westfall is not going to have a whole heck of a lot of time to adapt to the Audi. In normal situations, we have a warm-up before we go qualifying for the Michelin Pilot Challenge in the mornings. We did not get that today. So this is the first time that Jeff is getting to drive the car at all on Friday. No fuss, no panic. Clean and clear. They managed to get the car back and moving. Now, where's he going to filter back out? I think he might just still have the lead.
Well, just coming out of the pits now, even had time to set the wheel exactly where he wanted it. As you said, no fuss, no muss. Now, no tyre warmers, so no heat in the Michelins, and the two Astons are side by side. Or the Aston is side by side with one of the lapped cars. Big flash of the lights there, and here comes Hinman in the Porsche. He's got the best of that exchange right up underneath the second place car. Marcelli just held up for a moment by the automatic car that he was lapping, but it has meant that Jeff Westfall, those extra few laps, Jeremy Shaw, when we thought he was losing pace, he actually made great time, or at least Tyler Mcquarrie did. Before he brought the car in, he made great time, and it was enough not just to get back out somewhere near the cars he was racing, he's taken 5 or 6 seconds out of them.
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of a shuffle, hasn't there, during those pit stops. The number 95 BMW has fallen back quite a long way. Bill Oberlin has taken over now from Robbie Foley in number 95. Of course, Robbie's in number 96 at the moment. He's further down the order. But Eric Foss in car number 56, he was another of the contenders to make its pit stop fairly early, taking over from Jeff Mosing, as indeed did the number 7 car with Alan Brynjolfsson handing over to Trent Hinman. That was the first car to come onto pit lane, so he was the bravest, if you like, and it's paid off for him. Up into second place now, right behind Carl Marcelli. This is a good battle for the lead. Look how much smaller that Porsche Cayman looks than the Aston Martin GT4 Vantage.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? It really is. You don't think of the Vantage being a big car, and when it was sitting in behind the BMW M4, and even with the Mustang behind it, it didn't look a big car. It looked low and svelte. However, the 718 Cayman behind it looks like a 7/8 scale model. It really does look like a short track special, doesn't it?
It is amazing. I mean, there's a big weight differential between these cars, of course. The Porsche is by far the lightest of the GT4 cars. It weighs in at 1,300 kilograms. The Aston Martin, by contrast, 1,445. That's a lot of extra weight that Aston Martin's got to carry around. But as we can see, both of them are being headed now by the race leading car number 39, Jeff Westfall, having resumed, still in the lead ahead of the number 60 car, and Trent Hinman doing his best to put Kyle Marcelli under pressure for second place.
Well, I have to say, I was a bit worried about that Carbon car just before the pit stop started at the front of the field, because it had slipped down to third position, and there'd been a couple of laps where it looked like Tyler was struggling for pace, passed first as if he was chained to a post by the Aston Martin, which is now in second place. And yes, Sarah Rigby over in Crewe at the home of Bentley. We did hear you cheering even from this distance when the Aston took the lead. Then the BMW went back up into second, effectively, dropping that Audi down to third. But Tyler didn't panic. He kept on going. He stayed out. He waited for the track to come to him. And with the heat in those Michelin tyres that he'd built up, he was able to put in a cracking few laps. And those cracking few laps, Jeremy, coincided with his competitors coming out on cold new Michelin tyres. And that's where he banked the 4-5 seconds or so that it was to start with at the front of the field. Oh, problem. Robbie Foley in the 96 car. No, that's now Oberlin, isn't it, in the 96 car? Sorry, no, it was. I was right the first time around. Always go with your first thought. Thought precedes action, Hindhoff. He's gone past the pit entrance, and he's not going to get very much further. But what a pro He pulls right next to a cutout in what is effectively the back paddock wall, and what we should be able to do is get him pulled back. The Porsche intervention vehicle already on its way down there. That might be able to be, well, I was going to say it might be able to be handled with a local yellow, but there isn't a yellow halfway down the straight. There's no marshal's post there. So how will this be handled, and can that car be pulled back out of the way? Meantime, Westfall now 3.3 seconds up the road from the great battle, Jeremy Shaw, between Marcelli and Trent Hinman. I give Trent his due. He really made the best of his tyres coming on strong early, but you've got to say Karl Marcelli is defending very well indeed, as we've just had a new fastest lap of the race by the leader. It's all happening.
Yeah, 2 minutes 11.7 there for our race leader, Jeff Westfall. He's got everything under control here. And that is, in actual fact, a new race lap record. The old record stood to Devin Jones in the BMW, set last March, 2 minutes 11.945. Jeff Westfall at 2:11.779. This Audi is very much the class of the field. We heard Jeff Westfall talk about just before the race with Jay Adams, saying that with the new Evo Aero kit on this car, it's taken a little bit of getting used to for them. There's a slightly larger front splitter on the car, which has changed the center of pressure on the car, moved it a little bit forward, which Jeff was telling me this morning isn't really what they needed. But they clearly got the balance right now. And Jeff Westphal absolutely flying out in front of this race. No one's going to catch that Audi now. Trust me, unless something weird happens, that car is very much in control of this race. It's now battled down for second place, which is Karl Marcelli in the much heavier Aston Martin and the much lighter Porsche behind him. In the closing stages of this race, is that weight going to be a factor for Karl Marcelli? Is it going to give Trent Hinman an opportunity perhaps to take over second place? But certainly great strategy by the Archangel Motorsport team, Michael Johnson. I think Shay said it was Michael's birthday today. He's always known as one of the best strategists on pit lane, and Trent Hinman is super confident. He was able to say, yeah, bring it on, get Alan Brignoff in, I will go out on the still damp track. And Trent Hinman is in third position.
Gabby Chavez has just set the fastest lap for TCR after that unfortunate pit stop incident where the left-hand side lap belt or crotch belt that looked like the fastener had dropped underneath the seat and out through the slot in the side of the seat. That cost time. Meantime, a couple of battles further down the field where the two AMGs coming across the line now. We're in a bit of a scrap. 56 and the 4, is it? Yes, it is.
Yeah, battle for fourth.
That is the battle for fourth with Eric Voss and Indy Donchi. Indy up the tailpipes of that chrome tangerine. Chrome is obviously the thing this year, Jeremy, isn't it? Everybody's got similar colours to what we've seen in the past, but they seem a lot more shiny. There's even a bit of shiny red on that sort of flat black AMG GT4 on the number 4 car.
Yeah, there's all sorts of shiny cars and all sorts of matte cars, coloured cars as well, aren't there? But this is a super battle between those two Mercedes. There's yet another Mercedes, that is Dylan Murray, who is up inside the top 10 now in car number 35. That was the car
just set the fastest lap of the race as well, Jeremy, now down to a 2:11.662 in the Wins car.
Indeed so, and Karl Marcelli, he turned it 2:11.673 as well in the second position car. So track conditions now clearly very, very good.
And down at the hairpin, Dylan Murray up to the exhaust pipes of James Pesek in the 9th place PF Racing Mustang. He's about 10 seconds away from 8th, which is Sebastian Prior, who's 2 seconds away from 7th, which is the Bimmer World at number 80. The Bill Oberlin driven 95 is 7 seconds further up the road from Dylan McIvern, and then Indy Donchi is 2 seconds further up the road from that, and he's right on the tail of Eric Voss in the 56. There's 2.5 seconds between that 4th place Murillo racing car and Trent Hinman, who is now a second behind Kyle Marcelli in second, and Kyle has got 3.2 seconds to make up to the leader. Let's go to Shea Adam for a VP Racing Fuels paddock update.
I was checking in with Nick Galante after he got out of that World BMW, the number 80, after such an impressive performance out there on the track. He said the conditions were a little bit sketchy about 20 minutes ago, but when he got out of the car, it felt completely dry. And just a special little note for him, it's his daughter Andy's first race, so it's a very exciting occurrence for Nick Galante. That's possibly why he was driving extra motivated.
Love it.
That was a great drive by Nick.
I thought was outstanding. There's been a lot of good drives here already, Jeremy. It's going to be hard to sort of put your finger on one of them, and we may not know that until the end of the race. Let's check in with the leader in TCR, Mark Wilkins, in the black number 21, Brian Herter, Curb Agajanian, Hyundai Veloster, comes across the line right now, and he's got a reasonable lead to the eggshell blue car in second, which is the 98 car, team car. Then 47 Motorsport is way back down. It's got a couple of GS cars, and then it's James Vance for the Audi in 4th position. That is by far the best of the Audis and the first of the non-Hyundais. Right front puncture for the number 77 LA Honda World. They're really not having the rub of the green. Ryan Eversley in that LA Honda World car. They're not having it their way today, Jeremy Shaw.
No, they're not, are they? And this in TCR, this race is all about a Hyundai. No one even close to the Hyundais, I think, on ultimate pace here. They had good pit stops as well. And so it's all looking very, very good for them. It's what's going to be interesting after the race is to analyse how long the pit stops were for each of these contenders, particularly in GS, because clearly it was a fast stop by the number 39 team, that Peregrine Racing Audi, to get that car out, still in the lead ahead of Kyle Marcelli, who came in 1 lap sooner. This is the balance of performances isn't quite as close, perhaps, this weekend as we've become accustomed in the Michelin Pilot Challenge.
I can't do it like that because we had a long red flag. I was just going to go at the total pit time and be really very lazy. I can tell you that the car barn guys in their last pit stop, they were in the pit lane for 1 minute and 21 seconds in the pit lane, so that's how quick they were for that. An hour and 7 minutes before that was how long they were stopped under the red flag. So you're right, Jeremy, that was a very sharp stop indeed from the...
Where'd you get that information? I need that information. But no, that's good. I mean, where does that compare to number 60 car?
Stand by, caller. I am invoking
as we watch
the Trustwellian.
As we watch Alex Papadopoulos in that 3rd place car for 47 Motorsports. He's taken over that car from Ben Waddell. It's been a really good run for 47 Motorsports, new to the Michelin Pilot Challenge at Daytona. They ran 2 cars there, concentrating just on the one this weekend. We'd love to see the 2nd car out there again, though, before too long. And Alex Papadopoulos, he's been doing some other racing as well. He was in the he drove another TCR. He actually drove an Alpha last week in the SRO race at VIR, as we see a problem for another of the LA Honda World LAP Motorsports Hondas onto the pit lane. Boy, it's been a weekend to forget.
That's Shelby Blackstock.
Yeah.
That was Shelby Blackstock that was in there. They were just over 3 seconds longer in the pit lane than Carbon.
There you go. And that's the gap between 1st and 2nd right now.
There you go. It doesn't have to be 5 seconds. It doesn't have to be 10 seconds, does it, Jeremy? When it comes down to such small margins. Shea Adam is watching a very disconsolate Shelby Blackstock go back over the pit wall.
Yeah, back over the pit wall and done for the day. They had a DNF at Daytona resulting with them coming away with the fewest points of anyone in the TCR field running at Sebring. It's going to be the fewest points for them once again leaving this race.
The engineer is looking at the turbo pipe. They've had, am I misremembering this? They've had boost problems with this car before, haven't they?
This is the car that had the crash yesterday in the first practice session, and then it had boost issues today in qualifying. So nope, you're not misremembering, but it's unfortunate to see those issues flagging up again.
Meanwhile, no such problems out front for the car bar number 39 round the hotel hairpin and the far side of the circuit. At the moment, Jeff Westfall just controlling things, as Jeremy suggested about 10 minutes ago. We're inside 20 minutes now, by the way, for the Advent Health 120, which has become a bit of a dash for the cash, to be honest, but it's working out really well for Car Bomb with Peregrine. A 2:11.9 last time around, exactly the same to the 10th as Kyle Marcelli, who's doing a splendid job for Core Motorsports in the Aston Martin Vantage, ahead of Trent Hinman, who's dropped off a little bit, had real pace at the start of his stint and did what he needed to do, made up some positions when he took over the car from Alan Brynjolfsson, who was sitting down at the bottom end of the top 10, 7th or 8th, I think, when the pit stop started. And Trent, with canny driving and a good pit stop from the Archangel Motorsport team, has got himself into 3rd. It looked like he had a tyre advantage early on of the cars ahead of him, but he's drifted back to 2.5 seconds away from 2nd now. Then it's Indy Donchi. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I beg your pardon. I just don't think the Porsche quite has the pace of many of these other contenders in GS at the moment. But that battle for 4th place you were just about to talk about, that Indy Doncha has got past Eric Foss, and number 4 ahead of the number 56 car. But right behind them both now is Bill Oberlin in that number 95 Turner Motorsports BMW. He's closed in on that battle for 4th position. It's now a 3-car battle. Bill Oberlin has just turned his best lap of the race, a 2:11.8. The top
and he's gone past Eric Foss.
Very close.
Yeah, and he's gone past Eric Foss.
He has, hasn't he?
Yeah, on that last lap. And he's only a second or so, second and a half or so behind. We're gonna have, I reckon, a 4-car battle for 2nd on down if we're not careful. It's very, 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 very tight indeed. As the interesting thing for me, Jeremy, and I don't know how this will work out. Trent had really good pace in the mid-engine Porsche early on when he had the tyres up to temp and pressure, and he made the best of that. I just wonder if he's just saving himself for another push at the end when perhaps the heavier cars around him, in particular the car ahead, full course yellow. Oh, well, this really throws the cat amongst the pigeons. Now, Robbie Foley, we know, was running slow, but that was dealt with. So who have we lost? I'm not seeing any. Is this another rain issue? We've got more storm clouds in the distance. It's shown as a short yellow, and there is a nasty looking cell off to the east again and one to the south, just over Lake Placid. And let's see what's going on and what news we get. Well, it's going to close everybody up, and of course, if there's been lightning, it could cause an issue. There's certainly no issue with the track surface. Race controller saying all cars pack up. Not seeing at the moment any issue at the circuit. Let's wait for confirmation from race control. With just coming into the last 15 minutes, inside the last 30, as Jeremy was saying earlier on, the procedure is called a short yellow. That's not necessarily about the length of time it is, Jeremy, more about what you can and can't do. Under a short yellow, you don't open the pits, and there's no wave rounds and reset the field.
Yeah, that's correct. So within 30 minutes to the end of the race, it'll be a short yellow. That's what we've got right now, and certainly the pits will not be open, as you say. So there will be a reset of the classes. So the GS cars will move ahead of the TCRs, which is good news for some and bad news for others. But yeah, there will not be pit stops. There won't be a wave around. So it will be as soon as conditions are ready to go back to green, we will do that. We don't yet know the cause of the caution, do we?
No, we don't. And by the way, the car number 14, which had to serve a drive-through for a jump start, Anton Diaz Pereira, that car has just been pinged for a pit lane speed violation. That's a stop and hold, 11k over the speed limit, so not even close for that car. So they've not had, in anybody's imagination, what you could call a perfect day in terms of their penalty record. So now let's hope, well, I was going to say let's hope that all is well and we can get back to racing quickly, but if there is any danger in the area, then there can be no doubt what the situation will be. The track temperature back up to 37 Celsius, air temperature 30 degrees. Remember that, so that's gone up, what, 8 degrees Celsius, that track temperature, since we restarted. It was hovering around 29. And the CTS is back in front of the field. CTSV, I should say. And that makes a difference, trust me. Shea, are you hearing anything from the pits and paddock about what's happening here?
No, not hearing anything. There is a storm cell to the north of the track that does have some red in it that tends to involve lightning and other severe weather, but there's no rain that's actually coming over the track as far as I can see right now, and I'm just trying to get an answer from race control as to why we are under caution.
Well, we're still behind the Cadillac safety car at the moment. The clock continues to run. 12.5 minutes to go.
And John, going back to that red flag period and those few cars that did not come in with the leaders, they did that extra lap around. I did hear back from Bo Barfield, very kindly got back to me and said they were given their spots back because he said that race control was a little bit late in getting the red flags out there. They were kind of given a free pass, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they took a free pass and they weren't penalised.
Yeah, but no gain, no harm, no foul.
No, indeed so. And I think particularly as well, given this is the first time they've used the back straight pits, and that's a great explanation from Bo Barfield. As ever, our IMSA race officials always happy to answer direct questions from the broadcast crew, and we thank them for that. Shea, Adam?
I just got a note, multiple notes. The first one from Becky Mishdawi, who is one of the most lovely people in the paddock, does the PR for the Atlanta Speedworks team. She said that there is a stage 3 warning in effect right now, take shelter.
Okay.
So that's what's going on as far as what's happening out on track right now. Luis Pericarpi got back to me. He said that the 37, the car that pulled into the pit lane, it wasn't a boost issue. It was a loss of power steering. So that's why they had to retire that Honda.
Ugh. On a front-wheel drive car, no power steering. On a car that has power steering, oh no. I've driven a rear drive car for just over an hour in a race with no power steering, and it was the hardest hour and 5 minutes in my life. And that was only an MX-5, only a Miata. But trust me, when you're supposed to have power assistance on a rack and you don't have it, it's not the easiest thing in the world to turn it. So coming down to 10 minutes and packed up behind the safety car, Jeremy?
Yeah, if the yellow has been thrown for lightning in the area, I don't think we can go back to green for 30 minutes in any case, can we? So we might as well just park it, I guess. I don't think there's much chance, unfortunately, if that is the case, of getting back onto green flag conditions with only 10 minutes on the clock remaining.
Well, let's see if we can clarify the situation. as Jeremy says, if it is an issue with lightning within the prescribed area, we wouldn't get restarted in the 10 minutes to go unless they stop the clock again. But even then, it would roll the very moment that you rolled out of pit lane, so you might get a green-white checker situation. But I think what we are going to at the moment is heading towards, well, unless we get a quick restart, we could be heading towards a finish behind the Cadillac safety car. Just backing up a couple of other stories, by the way. Great run for the guys in the Hyundais. Mark Wilkins leading, 12th position overall, and was very, very quick. And was right on the tailpipes of James Pesic even before the yellows came out. Just looking down, James Vance in 4th place for faster. Good day for the Fast MD cars, the two Audi RS3s. Best of the rest, Jeremy, and ahead of a couple of the Hyundais at least. And the number 5 Alpha, the TMR Engineering Alpha, in 6th position. So Vance, Taylor and Lewis all ahead of a couple of the Hyundais. But Gavi Chavez absolutely charging back. He'll be the one, I would think, who is slightly miffed at not being able to chase down the cars ahead of him in under green flag conditions. Yeah,
that's right. He has set a new fastest lap in the class, new lap record for TCR as Gavi Chavez, 2 minutes 15.0. The old record was Tom O'Gorman in the Honda 2:15.4. But look, the Hyundais have been head and shoulders above everybody this weekend. The other Hyundais, their best laps have been in 2:15s. The best lap for the Audi was a 2:15.9 for Mikey Taylor. We know how quick Mikey is. He's already had pole positions in this series, so he's fast. But his best lap was 15.9 for John Morley, also in the Audi. So okay, it's not as far as I thought actually. Not quite as big a discrepancy as I thought.
Yes.
So maybe I owe somebody an apology for that one.
You explained it adequately, don't worry. I think...
But certainly the Hyundais have very definitely been the class of the field in terms of pace, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and 5 of them as well means you get an awful lot of data. In terms of the team, and Brian Hurt at Autosport, a very good team, and of course they've developed that car as well. So with the couple of customer teams now jumping in as well, that's very very uplifting for Hyundai. Setting the countdown to green earlier on, I've seen some spy shots of another TCR version, because of course there's the i30N hatchback. I've seen what I believe is an i30N fastback TCR running testing in Europe, and that is a very interesting looking machine. We've seen an i30N fastback race, but not in full TCR spec. It raced in one of the more showroom classes at the Nürburgring 24 last year. They were launching the car in Europe at that stage, and they had a few scattered around the place in glass boxes, looking from a distance as though you could walk up, pick them up and put them on your slot car track, but of course they were actually 1-to-1 full size. That's what, but you know what I mean, those display boxes, Shea, and it looks exactly like a slot car, and they had some very nice i30N fastbacks dotted around the Nürburgring and in the entrance to some of the campsites, and from a distance it almost looked like you'd lean out of the car and pick them up, but clearly not.
Well, John, it just makes them easier to wrap for Christmas when you do it that way.
Well, that's true enough. 5 minutes to go. and I'm not sure we're going back to green, to be honest. The reason that the safety car is out there, clear to see for us on the shots we're now getting in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre, there are no corner workers out, no flag marshals out. The finish stand is cleared off, so we are in a weather hold, and therefore we can't race because no one can be at their posts, and therefore the flags can't be displayed. So with 4 minutes and 33 seconds to go, this is effectively the last lap. Last lap took 5 minutes, so we are on the last lap now, and we have a philosophical question from Shea Adam.
If Tammy, who is the woman on the flag stand, the one that we know and love, doesn't actually throw the checkered flag, does that mean that the race actually ever ends?
I can't answer that question.
You know?
Pretty much every set of regulations I've ever seen says the race will be ended when the checkered flag is shown, and we've seen in the past checkered flag shown a lap early, a lap late. It's when the checkered flag is shown. So if it doesn't come out, are we just running round here till a week on Tuesday? I suspect there'll be a catch-all somewhere that says unless otherwise directed by race control. And of course nowadays, Jeremy, race control connected via switched messaging systems, etc., to all of the paddock and the pit wall, so they will be able to say right, I know you can't see it, but the white flag's out now, and it will be checker and double yellows next time around, because effectively there are double yellows out around the circuit at the moment, although we can't see them.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it is a shame though, isn't it, because the race might not have been on for the lead perhaps in either category, because Jeff Westfall had that 3-second buffer over Carl Marcelli, which didn't look like it was going to be reduced. Ditto Mark Wilkins over his former co-driver Michael Lewis in TCR, but there was all sorts of battles developing nicely in their wake, and it's a shame we're not going to see those reach their conclusion.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes to go, thereabouts. In fact, a little bit less than that when the safety car, the CTSV Cadillac, came out, because we had to withdraw the corner workers from their posts because of a weather warning again. We'll take a couple of interviews at the end once we have this confirmed, and everything running a little bit late now. As soon as we get the rejig times for free practice for the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, which is our next broadcast on RS2 IMSA Radio, we'll have exclusive coverage of that for you. We'll get to you. Jeremy, even as we speak, I'm sure we'll be working out the point situation. So
I have those.
Let's quickly update you. Can we start with TCR then, Jeremy?
No.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, I haven't got that far.
Okay. We'll start with GS then, Jeremy, shall we?
That's a great idea, John. Actually, yeah. Let's do GS first of all. With the win today, allied to the 4th place finish at Daytona 3 years ago, with the first round of the championship, so it seems like. They will now have 63 points there for Tyler Mcquarrie and Jeff Westfall. Tied for second will be Russell Ward and Indy Doncher in the number 4 Mercedes, and Nate Stacey and Carl Marcelli finished second today in the number 60 Aston Martin. They'll be tied on 58 points, and just one behind them in 4th position, Jim Cox and Dylan Murray in the number 35 Mercedes, with Dylan Murray having worked his way up into the 9th place when at this stage in the game.
Okay, Jeremy, thank you. We'll get Shea to grab the co-drivers of the 2 winning cars as well as soon as this is confirmed, and with 30 seconds on the clock as they come down the back straight now, I believe it will be checkered flag at the end of the race as they go across the start finish line in the traditional place this next time around. I'm just giving Jeremy time to work out TCR here as well. Shout up when you've done that, Jeremy. time expiring in 5 seconds. And as I say, there was only 4 minutes left. So we should come to a checkered flag across the start-finish line, or at least a finish across the start-finish line, even if the checkers aren't there. So it will be a finish behind the Cadillac CTSV safety car, and Jeff Westfall right over by the pit wall before he's got round, of course, because it's on the back straight, and saluting with thumbs up and clenched fists the guys on the pit wall. Jeremy, quickly, let's see the cars across the line first of all. It is behind the safety car, but it is a win for the number 39 from pole position. Car bar with Peregrine Racing. Tyler Mcquarrie hit his bit early on, and Jeff Westfall, fabulous run after a very, very quick pit stop. And they will take the Michelin Pilot Challenge, the Advent Healthcare 120, ahead of Core Motorsports in second. Archangel Motorsports, they were the big winners after the pit stops, up from 7th position to a spot on the podium. Indy Donchi, the unlucky 4th place driver, didn't have the chance to chase down the guys ahead, and it was happening, and he was pulling Bill Oberlin, who will finish 5th for Turner Motorsport with him. They'd gone past Eric Foss in 6th. Dylan McEvan and the rest of Bimmer World in the 80 car finished in 7th. Sebastian Priaulx for Multimatic in 8th. Then Riley in 9th, and Bimmer World, the 82 car, in 10th, with James Pesic and the rest of PF Racing just outside. In TCR, Brian Herder Autosport, 1st, 2nd, and their car in the hands of 47 Motorsport in 3rd, 21.98 and 47. That's your podium in TCR, all Hyundai, and that leaves the TCR standings looking like this.
It does. In the lead now will be today's winners, Harry Gottsecker and Mark Wilkins, car number 21, tied on 60 points with their teammates, number 98, Mason Philippi and Michael Lewis. 2 points behind them, the winners at Daytona at the opening round of the championship, Gavin Ernstone and John Morley on 58. Then on 57, 1 point behind them is Mikey Taylor, who had a different co-driver at Daytona, but he has 57 points now in the one of the fast MD with Speed Syndicate Audis.
Share.
2 years in a row for Tyler Mcquarrie at Sebring International Raceway. Can't we just have every race here, Tyler? It seems to work for you guys.
What's that?
2 race wins in 2 years at Sebring. Do you wish every race was at this track?
Oh, absolutely. We love this track. The Carbon Audi just is so good around this place. You know, the pole position this morning, you know, just like last year, we pretty much led every lap. And of course, it's an IMSA race, so there's mixed conditions. And, you know, I think we did a good job of pulling back the reins, and we needed to. And Jeff just went out there and just did a great job. And, you know, it's too bad we couldn't finish under green, but it was awesome. Hats off to the whole team. And I want to say what's up to our tire guy, Eric, who couldn't make this race a couple of days before we left. His mom died. So we're thinking about him, miss him, and can't wait for him to get back.
What happened toward the end of your stint when all of a sudden you dropped back to 3rd? Was everything still okay with the car?
Yeah, no, everything was fine. We were just getting some rain around the track, and I was just being overly cautious. And, you know, I just decided to let those guys go. They were pushing pretty hard, and I said, as long as I can keep them right there. And, yeah, I was fine with that. I'm okay with that. And, again, like, that's what really helped us last year to win the championship. It's lack of rains. And, you know, luckily the guys did a killer pit stop, and we went a little long before we did it, so we short-filled it and beat them all out. So, in the end, it didn't really matter to let them go by.
Yeah, in the end, it didn't matter because you got the trophy and they didn't. Congratulations, Tyler, and give Jeff an air fist bump for us.
We will, for sure. We can't wait for
Thanks,
you guys
bud.
to come back to the track, too.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Neither can we.
Well done, Tyler.
Mcquarrie, your race winner.
Yeah, well done,
Thank
Tyler Mcquarrie, from all of us here at IMSA Radio. That 3 seconds, that 3 seconds difference made all the difference in terms of track position at the end, and that leaves the GS manufacturer points looking like this, Jeremy.
Audi have overturned a 3-point deficit they had to Mercedes after the opening race of Daytona, now lead by 4. 67 points for Audi, 63 for Mercedes. Aston Martin remain in third place on 62, so 5 points covering the top 3 there. In TCR, Audi and Hyundai reversed positions from Daytona, because it was the Audi that came on top there with Gary Lernson and John Morley. They got first place points. Hyundai's best finishing car was 4th place, but they get second place manufacturer points. That has now been reversed here, so Audi and Hyundai tied on 67 in TCR.
Of course they do, in the early part of the season. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuels Pit Lane and Paddock reporter. We're trying to get a hold of Harry Gottsacker, who did such a brilliant first part of the race. Let's see if we can join him now, Shea.
Yeah, Harry, what a start to that one. When you were up there running in 12th position, mixing it up with the GS cars, were you even realizing that there were other TCR cars in the race with you?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't trying to think about what was behind me on the car. Really just kind of trying to wiggle my way through all the traffic that was going on. It was definitely pretty crazy. Both of the starts were quite fun.
First win for you and Mark as a duo, but it's not your first one in the series. Road America was a wet race where you also got a win last year. This one didn't have as much rain, but it still made you wait for it. Are we just going to need more red flag races for you?
Yeah, I hope so. Mark has already shown me so much this year. It's been a pleasure working with him so far. I'm just really looking forward to getting some more trophies throughout this year.
Well, congratulations on this race win at Sebring, and we look forward to seeing what you guys can do as a duo. That was a mega drive.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great run for all of the Brian Herter Autosport cars, first, second, and third. Not with the Brian Herter Autosport team, in fairness. 47 Motorsports coming in third position. They'll be very happy with that. And the rest of the TCR paddock, Jeremy, will be looking very carefully at the stats. And that Hyundai Veloster, that looked very quick indeed. Got to give a little bit of kudos, though, to Fast MD. Both of their Audis, 4th and 5th, did a pretty clean race. They took advantage of some problems for Gavi Chavez, as did TMI Engineering with that solo running Alfa Romeo Giulietta.
Yeah, very much so. It was certainly a very good run for that team.